Okay. Welcome to Joby Aviation's Q1 2026 earnings call. I thought it would be appropriate to rep the Joby gear and not to worry. We're going to have Liam here very soon, and he's going to definitely help kick off our Q1 2026 Joby's earning call as well. So welcome. Grab a seat, come relax. I think it would be good kind of as we start. Maybe we go over and we just kind of talk about, I don't know, maybe some general feelings around, what we're looking to hear on the earnings call and kind of settle in and, kind of get to see what we might get presented as we get the shareholder decks to come out. So give a little moment for everybody to settle in. I think one thing I wanted to do was I thought it'd be good to kind of look at that Joby and ASI partnership. As we kind of look forward to Joby getting like that continuous revenue stream. So we kind of know that they're going for the OEM style of business and, really looking to conduct what's going to be that true air taxi route, really of the now and going into the future. So, I mean, you can picture that day where there's going to be really hundreds of S4s, and those are going to be kind of plotted around the country. And we know that they're already tapping in globally into Asia, into Dubai. So again, that already sparks the thought of, for today's call, are we going to hear anything on the entrance into Dubai for Q3 of 2026? So, I think that there's still, some skepticism, but I think there's also a chance that they still could get in and do even some sandbox test flights in Dubai. So I know with those regulators over there, they are watching, everything very closely, but, to keep in mind, and this will all come together. Sorry to be so tangential at the front end, but this will all come together. So really to tie it in with the continuous vertiport build out that's been going on over in Dubai as well, and really to look at the Sky Sports build out that was completed as well. So it's kind of crazy as you have the eVTOLs that are still pre-FAA approval, and we're still going through the certification process and such, where you do have such a lean in through the UAE where they're doing the continuous support of the vertiport build out. And then again, as we were talking on eVTOL Weekly last night about how the Rubin brothers on the top of their 2-tower building are really committed in partnering with Joby to bring that really as that kind of luxurious kind of trip option to their residents as well. So it's interesting to see how, again, both on the US and in the global soils, Joby really does continue to like plant that flag. And, I think we've all come to an understanding that Joby is the industry leader. And, that's been through, I think, multiple demonstrations that they've had right now on the big kind of NYSE ticker eVTOL companies that we all kind of follow. We know Joby has been flying for, gosh, it feels like 18 months to 2 years doing true VTOL transition flights, and also rolling into a second eVTOL that they've been rolling out. And you look at them now where they're able to do I don't even want to call it a presentation, to call it what it is, the Electric Skies tour, and literally from coast to coast in the US be having these eVTOLs fly in the air. And it's not like they're flying in remote locations. Like they're flying in at-risk locations, over the Golden Gate Bridge, over water. They're taking these experimental aircraft and they're testing them to the power that they know that these aircraft can perform to. And I think it's really to be applauded in the Joby community, to the team at Joby who's really been putting this together. Because again, I think for all of us that continue to grow as the enthusiasts in here, it's the team at Joby who, they've been working day in and night out to continue to have that maturation of the aircraft and to get it going through these stages of production with the FAA as well. Let me give a quick shout out. Maddie, what's up? It's good to see you. Good to see you. We got Rhino hanging in. Hello, hello, hello. I'll definitely get some of the comments up on the screen. So bear with me, first time leading it, but we are going to knock this out. We're going to do our best. And we got Goat in the house. So my man, it's great to see everybody here. And if you are ready for the Joby Q1 26 earnings call, drop Joby in the chat and we're going to keep firing it off. And if you have any topics that you want to go over pre-stream, drop them in the chat too. Like, honestly, I want this really to be like an open conversation. Like, I want everybody to have fun in this pre-stream. So no matter what's on your mind with Joby, if you want to talk about one of the recent partnerships that they've got, if you want to dive deeper and be kind of like, uh, kind of think outside the box with the partnership with them and L3 Harris. And I know that again on these earnings calls, we don't always get to hear a lot about the depth of like what the program of record would quite be that these companies would be able to go after and or kind of be awarded in that sense. But what again I think is amazing is that you not just have Joby being able to kind of, I don't even want to say promote, but kind of get out there that they're a partner of L3 Harris. But you have not even just 24 hours ago where you have L3 Harris promoting through their own X site the excitement in essence of what Joby has been able to do with their aircraft that would be looking actually to go over on the military side. So you have defense partnerships, you have partnerships with ASI, who's already integrated into building out the 4D landscape of the sky, and you have the Toyota partnership. So again, we know that they'll be doing some more manufacturing in the U.S. and committed quite a few billions of dollars into that. But it will be interesting to see if they do allot any of that to Joby and allowing them to use either their manufacturing facilities, as the ramp starts. Because when you do think about Toyota being a real manufacturing partner, and again, this doesn't have to happen in the next 3 to 6 months or anything like that. But when you think about the Toyota facilities that they have, really a way to drive this industry forward is going to be the automation of being able to basically produce these aircraft. And so again, you kind of need what I heard before was like that Henry Ford kind of moment and person. So kind of as these different CEOs of these companies go forward, maybe Joe Ben can be that Henry Ford of the eVTOLs and not only figure out, how to design and create the eVTOL that's able to fly and right now be the S4 and see if there's any newer renditions that do come as we get to the 2030, 2035. It will be interesting to hear if Joe Ben talks about anything about autonomous flight on this call, because he has alluded to that on previous calls. So it's always interesting, again, to kind of hear those little nuggets of what these CEOs are not just thinking about what their company is today, but also what their company can be and grow in the future too. So I think I got how. So, yep, Maddie's there. I want to give a big shout out to Maddie. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. We're going to have a great show. Let's see. We got Rhino there. What's up? What's up? Thank you. Thank you. And bless. And look who we got here. We got the Hustle Brother, the main man himself, still checking in, and he will be with us soon. So don't fear. You will get Liam in the house, but he says, what's up? And he will be with us. And not last, not least, big shout out again to GOAT. Yeah, looking blue, my guy. Yeah, it does feel like, some of this GOAT, it's almost like we all kind of are in this community. Like, I'm not going to say if not saying part of the office, it's like, I really do feel like we are already this tight-knit group of individuals, guys, girls, people with families, fathers, husbands, wives, all the mix. And, I think it's so cool as, again, we're looking at the technology that those much younger than us will be able to use in their everyday life. So, for any of the fathers out there, think about these early seed investments that you're making, not just for that opportunity to have the stock kind of push and do the catalyst that, we all think and hope it will make, but also to the future of what the transportation is and will be like moving forward. So the only reason I'm looking down is we're going to check on the stock price. So let's just do a full eVTOL kind of rundown of the market today. So as of now, we have Archer sitting in at 584. It is up just dropped low, so it's up 1.04%, and now it's jumping up. So it's getting those little cents up and down. Let's see what we got here. We have Archer. Now let's hit on Joby, our main man of the day. We got Joby sitting at 881. Kind of intraday to get to 869. and it did hold there. Oh, it got to 866, and then it did recover, coming back up to 885. Just taking a little breather now, and probably digesting, getting ready for earnings. Some other earnings today too. So it'll be interesting to see how, again, the kind of macro stock exchange market is able to kind of navigate the waters as we go through these big tech earnings. And then we have our high beta names, like our favorite eVTOLs as well, that are coming up and having their earnings too. So big shout out to Joby for holding that today. Let's check on Hover really quick, because we know that there's a lot of New Horizon and Hover lovers, as I say, in the crowd. So we got Hover basically hovering there at 230. We have Vertical coming in at 241. So right now, 2% bump from the day. Right at open, it shot up almost 5%. So we did almost have a 5% opening. It was at like 4.24% at the open. And just gonna check on Surf Air and Beta. Just see, let's see, SRFM for Surf. Yeah, so that one's just kind of been staying around above $1. Let's see, did it cross it? No, didn't get below it today, but at 111 at the moment. And last, but in the sense, this will just be the last. I was trying to make something, but I wasn't that witty. So we got Beta coming in. They're at a price of 17.12 at the moment, and they are up almost 2% on the day. And just checking really quick, just for anyone that would want to know, the volume on Beta was actually still under 2 million for the day, a little bit above the average. But let's go check in on Joby, because that's why we are here. And so the trading volume today on Joby, you know what? Actually close to the average. So we have about 20, it just passed 24 million shares traded for the day. And average volume on Joby right now is about 25 million. So very nice. Like it, like it, like it. So actually, let me leave that open so that way we can see if there's any drops but pops in the stock price as the earnings start to kick off and we get closer to closing bell. So let's see here. We got about 10 minutes till closing bell. And yeah, so let's tap in and see what is going on with Joby Aviation. So again, I think, that ASI partnership is really curious to me in the sense of the timing that it came in. So you had ASI partnering with Joby, I believe it was April 7th of this year. So it was right in and around that time when the press conference for the modernization of the ATC was kind of going into place. So it was really curious to see again, as it wasn't just Palantir in the running now for remodernizing the ATC and really modernizing the skies. It's like now you have Joby, who has the eVTOLs in the skies, and now on top of that, they have the partner in ASI who's already in control of 40% of the airspace, of the national airspace at certain points in time. They're in control of 40%, or have I don't want to say in control. They have leverage into 40% of the national airspace at certain times. And so you've already seen them bring Alaska Airlines to be more fuel efficient, more emission and drop their emissions down. So when you have a company like Joby who's already looking to go electric, I mean, that already plays down into the net green and kind of getting net zero on the green that a lot of companies are going. And that's where, again, I think a lot of these major airline partners can play in as well, where they're already looking to go in a more zero emissions and kind of green out for their sheets, for their energy cap sheets and such. So by bringing the eVTOLs into the ecosystem, it's like your margins already steadying out as you're bringing these electric aircraft that can maybe be a partner and help get your passengers. I even think in the sense of maybe shuttling them on the larger airports like Dallas, Fort Worth and such like that, where you maybe have to do some ground transportation to be able to catch a flight. And we know that sometimes there is a short layover in between the flights, but it will be interesting to see as the major airlines keep rolling into their earnings calls, how they kind of present the eVTOLs that they're partnered with as really a growth story inside of their ecosystem as well. So let's see. let's see on Joby ASI, just because I mentioned it. So again, back in April, Joby did partner with ASI, and ASI partnered with Joby. This was building on the ASI's Flyways AI platform, and so really, it's an open AI-powered airspace intelligence platform, and it utilizes 4D modeling to optimize the flight operations. So again, we can see this come into play as a necessity because as we look to fill up the airspace, it's just going to continue to layer on top where you might have a layer of drones, and then you're going to have a layer of kind of your traditional airplanes that would be taking flight anyway. So in the middle of that, you kind of actually have this corridor that can be created for these eVTOLs. So again, I think another exciting thing as we're not just pushing through from FAA regulations, but also pushing through in the ATC and allowing us to have that ability to be managed by air traffic control. Because again, once we get that green light put on by FAA, even when Joby was flying in New York, again, I think it was Bonnie at the stage who was saying that they were radioing in to, I believe it was Newark, but I apologize, but they were radioing into the tower to basically get the green light that they had the airspace to fly. And that's when you were going to start seeing some tilt on the rotors and such. And so you can already tell that, the communication will be going through the eVTOL aircraft on off to the radio towers and really clearing the airspace so that we can make sure that we're optimizing, I would say, especially as we scale this in the US and abroad, we're going to want to be optimizing as many aircraft that can come off the production line, continuing to basically modernize the airspace so that they can fit all those aircraft and we can have these seamless operations going back to back and having these point rides. Because obviously, again, the macroeconomics to this and the economics of this all is the more flights that you can perform within a day and stay light on your MRO, it's always going to be better for that balance sheet as well. Also, for the balance sheet today, we're going to see what's going on with Blade. So I did say yesterday on eVTOL Weekly that I did think that the revenue would be up from quarter over quarter on Blade today. I did actually go back and watch that stream, and as I was listening back to it, just to kind of throw out kind of the maybes of what we may see on the balance sheet, I wouldn't actually be surprised to see maybe a little bit actually of a decrease in the revenue of Blade. And the only reason I say that is actually counter to what I said last night, where it's going to be more of the seasonality. So I was not really factoring in the quarter, taking in so many of the winter months. So apologize for that. But I would look to see Blade's revenue basically start to ramp quarter over quarter and quarter over quarter sequentially after this call. So I would see that as a net plus to the balance sheet. And then, it'll be interesting to see if Joby also talks about any revenue that they may be able to bring in through the EIPP, as there's only been one other eVTOL company who has mentioned revenue through the EIPP on their earnings call. So, I think, again, as we look at all these different options or opportunities for revenue to come in through these companies, it not only starts to make the market cap more viable and a little bit more palatable to, say, like the institutional investors, but again, it allows that growth multiple to keep being added in so that you have your price to book being compressed, but allowing your growth multiple to stretch because of what you're showing inside of the company. And not just on these earnings calls, but everything that they're showing really on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you have Joby flying 1 to 2 eVTOLs, what seems like every single day. It doesn't seem like there's much of a airspace restriction in the sense of where they're worried about flying their aircraft. So I think as the weather's warm, they are up to basically fire up their aircraft and get it in the air and continue to gain the test data, which again is going to backdoor its way into ASI, and why that partnership might be so critical and might give ASI that chance to be more of a front runner for winning that chance to modernize the skies with their ATC system, because they would be plugging all of that Joby flight data in, I would assume, to help them gauge out kind of general structure and stance of how those eVTOLs are going to need to be fitted in, and then with the numbers of ramps. So we're expecting right now that we're going to be getting 4 coming out of the facilities a month in 2027. So again, with that, I think that again, I don't want to set the goalpost. I think maybe that's a big thing to take away from this quarter, at least for myself, is I don't want to go and set the goalpost for this company. I want the company to go ahead and set that, because we already know that the FAA and general regulations and budget already can shift so much. I want to stick to what the company's guiding to, but I always think it's good with these companies to go back 6 months, and you can kind of do two things. You can go back and review the earnings call and basically see, like, have they kept to their promises? Is the build out that they're doing happening? Was their guidance in line? Was their capex in line? And I think that's one way. And again, I always say, when we look at these eVTOL companies, even if we're looking at them on a 3 to 6 month basis, going back, you have the ability to see how much more mature that these aircraft are, and or the confidence that these companies have in showcasing their aircraft than they were even just those 3 to 6 months ago. So even when you had Joby last year, and I believe it was in the late fall to early winter, I apologize on that, but flying in Osaka, and, it's like going from Osaka to now being able to have I'm sorry, not even the EIPP flights, more into the Electric Skies Tour taking place over US soil, which again, it's kind of been that entry point of, is Joby going to first enter UAE and kind of touch down and have that be home base as the kind of, or home base or birthplace of eVTOL operations? Or either through conflict or process with FAA, being able to kind of have a straightforward path. Because again, if you look, Duffy, he's reorganized the FAA organizational chart, and there's been a push to get to what the FAA deemed as Innovate 28. So as we may hear that more out there in the general aviation and eVTOL enthusiast world, I think Innovate 28 can really ring for Joby as well. And, even to backdoor that into what they did with the Rubin brothers, like already starting to put the infrastructure in place so that when the summer games come to LA in 2028, they're going to have some infrastructure already in place where they're going to be able to operate their eVTOLs as well. Because even if they're not the exclusive air taxi partner of the Olympics, that's not to say that the airspace is not going to be open for their eVTOL aircraft to fly. And I really do think for the whole eVTOL industry, the more eVTOL we have in the sky during that showcase, the better. So again, 4 times 12, simple math is 60. No, 48. That other than 5. So simple math is 48. So, even if we have 30 of those that are held in the US, if we're taking partial for US, and then we are sending some over to UAE, and then we go into 28, where we're going to start to learn, is the ramp in manufacturing able to kind of kick up a little bit, maybe get it in the 6 to 10 a month range, or even see what could be exceeded in that, especially with FAA approval, because once the FAA approval is done, now we look at the factories and facilities to see, is the tooling there, and do they have the ability to mass produce these aircraft? And once you have the marriage of the two, once you have the tooling in the factories and you have FAA approval, I mean, it's really nothing but company execution that would be stopping these companies from being market leaders and really taking hold of what that projectable TAMs, could and will be, and whether that $1 million TAM, would take till 2035, 2040, 2045. I mean, again, you have to look at the market cap of the company that we're investing in right now in Joby. And as of now, that current market cap sits at, just above 8.53 billion. So again, with Joby having up in the air, I'd say 1.5, close to around the 2 billion in cash still range. It's putting about a 4x growth multiplier onto the stock, and, selling at, much reduced price to book than it was in a really bullish macro environment. So, I mean, you have a few things that can play into Joby's favor. Also, as the macro environment can turn, and then also having conflict in UAE start to settle, and then again, just having them continue to produce, showcase their aircraft, continue on the Electric Skies Tour. Let me hit on really quick, because for that Electric Skies Tour, And big shout out to GOAT. And let me pop this up here. Maddie, what's up? What's up? And that's right. The team is here. We got us. We got us. And I thank everybody for making the earning call. Maddie, thank you for being here. My guy, you're amazing. Earnings call. Let's see here. Earnings call. Let's see. I believe we're slotted to go. They usually drop the info, some shareholder letter in and around 4. So let me see actually if we by chance, let me see, Joby Aviation Q1 2026 earnings call. All right. I'm sorry to talk so fast at the beginning, guys. Man, I was just jacked up. I'm just super excited to get this call underway. Again, I would say right now, coming off the last Q4 calls, I felt like at that point in time we may have had more. It's scheduled, and I'm sorry, Maddie, it's scheduled for 5. So right now the actual call is scheduled for 5, but I would expect some shareholder letter information to come out a little bit sooner than that, and we'll probably also be getting some EPS numbers. Generally around, I would say about the 415-ish mark. So let me get the Joby investor relation page pulled up, and that way we can see if we get anything that pops on there. And let's see. And then let me bring up the Electric Skies tour map. Let me do this Electric Skies tour for Joby. And we're going to do that. And let me just bring up my quick SEC database, because this is going to be where we can also see when these filings come out right away. So let me go to Aggr database really quick, and let's kick it off after that. So let's see. And again, if y'all got any questions, comments, drop them in the chat. I want this to be fun, relaxed. I know I've talked way too much and way too fast, but we're going to be nice and relaxed. We're going to kind of just take the call in. We're going to see what JOBin has to say. We're going to see if Rob from Blade steps on the mic, if he brings anything about kind of the operation, the more of the OEM operations. We do know that Dieter stepped down. So it will be interesting to see if they do mention Dieter on the call. I would expect maybe they do give a nod to him. And I don't know if they would be really talking about much more on that, but just maybe giving Dieter a nod for everything he's done for Joby as well. So drop a D in the comments if you're sad that Dieter's gone, or did enjoy his time with Joby Aviation as well. So let's see what we got on our Aggr database here for our favorite company in our Q2, our Q1. Let's see, April 22nd. No, okay, so that was an AK current. Okay, so I'll keep refreshing that. And once we get the 10 Qs and all that, we will start to go over those as well. So let me bounce back to the Electric Skies tour. So we have upcoming North Carolina. Let me go back here. We have, let me see, I know that there's another map on this one, so bear with me for just a second. Let's see. But, I think, again, them in New York, I mean, what they're doing is they're literally showing off the point-to-point flights that have been talked about, I would say, on these earnings calls since minimally 2022, and, it's like, for those that have been in Joby Aviation that long, I really commend you for sticking with this company and the vision, and the leadership at the top from JOBin. Somebody that, again, I see one of the biggest difference between JOBin and Adam is you have JOBin who he's really that founder, and it's, I really feel like these aircraft come from his heart, and it's something that, he like lives, breathes, dies, and in the sense of, since his early days of trying to design this electric aircraft to be able to, mature his company to reach the place of getting on the New York Stock Exchange, to get FAA pilots, I'm sorry, get DERs and DARs constantly in the building, whether or not the government was open. So even during the government shutdown, you had the DERs and DARs in the building. And, so it's a big nod to Joby as they continue to push forward. So I'm proud for Joe Ben. I think he's probably going to nail the prepared remarks. He's been doing a great job with that. He's been out with the interviews. I know he had that Joe Lyonsdale interview. Big shout out to Go Gains. If you haven't followed him on X or YouTube, definitely check out Go Gains. He's got great content. If you stick to the end of the video, not to spoil it, but you might be in the Go Gang if you make it to the end. So really, really good man. And he's been doing some really, really cool stuff in the eVTOL world. So and he's also got his hopefully I don't butcher it, EV Talk Tuesdays that he does as well. So stay tuned because I know he'll have another fresh one coming out. And let's see. So what's up, Kradal? Solo Dylan, only until Liam pops up on the window, and then we're gonna bring him in. So you just got me Solo for a little bit, but no, we're gonna bring Liam in. And he wouldn't miss this. We've been talking, and he was. I don't want to like put words in his mouth and be like he was so sorry, but he was just so sorry that he couldn't make the intro. But he trusted me with it. He said, Dylan, go live, get it started. And, I was literally like so excited. I said, let's do this and, hopefully get the good community that's been following the Hustle Brothers, a early opportunity to get together. Sorry, y'all, to get together and, really just kind of settle in as a community because, I think that's been one of the coolest things. It's like, I know for myself, some of my closest friends and stuff that I talk to these days, they're really people that I've met in this growing community over the last 2 years, so, whether it's talking eVTOLs or talking life, I totally love this crowd. And, I think we're all going to grow, mature together and watch these aircraft mature together. So back to Joby. Let's see. Excuse me. We have, let's see, just checking on any EPS information really quick. So again, the expected is going to come in at a minus 21 cent. I'm not sure. If I had to project, I'm going to say that they're going to do a slight beat on the EPS. But that's a general guess that I'm going to take for that one, that they're going to come in with a slight beat. Sorry about that. And let's see, let's go check out our SEC database and earnings release. So let's see what we got. Okay, I'm going to do my best to share all this on the screen as well. So let me bring this up as we are about to hit the Joby press release. I like it. We got to show this one, Liam. See, I told you he's there. He's waiting. He'll be here soon. Liam says 100 likes, and he's gonna do a giveaway. And I know this man will. So if you're here, if you haven't already, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It really does help share us out to the algorithm. Because again, this community is an awesome one. So we want to continue to grow it and continue to bring the best content to you. So if we can get 100 likes, we're gonna have Liam do a giveaway, and I know that that's awesome. So I think we can do it. So if you haven't already, hit that like, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe, and you'll see a lot of eVTOL content coming from us. But more on that later, and yeah, we'll get back to it. But 100 likes, and we'll get that Liam giveaway. So big shout out, Liam. Thank you, man. All right, that's really cool. That's really cool. All right, let's see what we got here. We got. Let's see. We got Valentine Dan. What's up? Go Joby. Yep. I'm gonna clap that up. Good job. Good job. And again, we're going in hard today. We're gonna rep the Joby merch that was kindly sent over. And unless y'all really want to see them, I'm also wearing the Joby socks. So giving Joby hopefully a little bit extra little touch that they're gonna knock this earnings call out. And let's see what we got here. So Form 8K coming out, press release and shareholder letters. So let me pop them both open. and press release. Okay, perfect. So on the press release, I'm just going to read that real quick. Highlights include 2026 Electric Sky Stores kicks off with landmark demonstrations in San Francisco and New York City. Time to consolidate. Time to coincide with the United States 250th anniversary. Joby launches its 2026 Electric Skies Tour in March with planned flight demonstrations and other events across the U.S. Joby flew multi-leg journeys from its Marina, California manufacturing base past the Golden Gate Bridge and in and out of Oakland International Airport. In late April, the tour continued in New York City, where Joby completed its city's first ever point-to-point electric vertical takeoff and landing (eVTOL in parentheses) flights, departing from JFK International Airport and landing at 3 Manhattan heliports, the same heliports that served over 90,000 Blade passengers in 2025. One more piece on here. Initial operations expected to begin in 2026. Okay. So press release, initial operations expected to expected to begin in 2026. Joby was named a partner in multiple winning applications under the White House-backed eVTOL integration pilot program, creating the opportunity to begin early operations this year ahead of FAA type certification in up to 11 states, including New York, New Jersey, Texas, Florida, Utah, and in addition, oh wow, this has a lot more. And its air taxi platform, Joby was selected for applications featuring the Superpilot Autonomous Flight Technology Program, expanding the range and use case partner states that can explore under this program. So those make me think of Texas, maybe one. That's really exciting. So again, Joby was selected for applications featuring Superpilot Autonomous Flight Technology Platform, expanding the range of use case partner states that can explore under the program. That's really cool. First FAA conforming aircraft takes flight. Joby's first FAA conforming aircraft for type inspection authorization, so that's the TIA, took to the skies for the first time during this quarter. The aircraft, that's Nancy 547 JK Jello Kilo. I'm sorry, I know there's a better JX. I apologize, my eyes. In the first, it's the first fleet currently in production to support TIA testing. So to me, that's really exciting because it looks like, again, these aircraft that are going to be going through the production line are going to be the ones that are going to be going for TIA testing. Let's see. We got Cordell saying we got Joby with a double beat. That is awesome. So we're going to check. Let's check on those. So I'll put that up there just for, again, quick second. So we got report in that Joby got a double beat. If you don't mind, come back with, if you happen to have any of the double beat numbers, feel free to drop them in and I'll put them up. That would be awesome. So really quick, again, just bouncing back, manufacturing momentum builds in California and Ohio. Joby views it selected across its broad range of EIPP applications as strong signals of future demand and the scaling of manufacturing to meet it. Composite productions is now running at more than 2.5 times last year's volume, with parts in production for 8 additional conforming aircraft, including all remaining FAA conforming aircraft slated for TIA. In Ohio, the company has initiated its first conforming propeller blade production and has expanded capacity to nearly double Joby's previous manufacturing footprint to nearly 1.5 million square feet. So like, Joby's not playing, man. They're on the gas. All right, last 1 or 2 bullet points here, and then we'll go shareholder letter. Advancing future capabilities. Joby completed the first transition flight with its turbine electric VTOL aircraft, including a 148-mile flight at maximum takeoff weight. Okay, 148-mile flight at maximum takeoff weight. The aircraft is built on Joby's core electric air taxi platform and introduces a gas turbine to increase range and payload capacity. Joby also announced a partnership with Airspace Intelligence, so that's ASI, to safely integrate air taxis into the National Airspace System. ASI's AI-powered 4D modeling platform is helping modernize U.S. airspace management. Joint demonstrations are planned for later this year. Strong balance sheet. Joby ended the first quarter of 2026 with 2.5 billion in cash and cash equivalents and short-term investments. 2.25 billion dollars. So, if you want to talk about the run rate to get to 2028, right now, 2.25 billion dollars seems like that's going to be what they get there. So, let's see what Valentine Dan found. So he says Joby Aviation's gap EPS of minus 12 cents does beats by 9 cents. That's correct. From the minus 21 expected, revenue of 24 million beats the 3.8 million expected. Wow, that's hey, good check-in. Good check-in. I much appreciate that, Dan. That's awesome, man. Big beat. If that was the expected revenue and that's the beat on it, great job, Joby. That's what you got to keep doing, smashing through those doors, and beating that revenue expectation. That's amazing. Let me see really quick. I promise I'll get better at this as we go. I want to just see if I can share. Let me see if I can share the screen, and let me see if this lets me get up the financial quarter results. Let me see if this is the one. Investor relations, Edgar. We'll do it this way. We're gonna go from right here, and then this should, let me see if this helps. All right, so let me see if I can build that out a little bit more. And let me see, sorry about that. I'm gonna see if I can get this to where everybody can see, and then I will go over the shareholder letter that just was out for Joby. So let me see, hopefully everybody can see that okay. And then let me pop over and get out the, excuse me, and get out the shareholder letter for everybody. All right, so we're gonna skip that one. All right, sorry about that. I see that it is a little tiny in the corner, so I apologize. But let me see if I can, that is probably gonna be better. So let me see if that starts showing that up a little bit better. Awesome. Me at the bottom, that's all we need. Not much of me, we just need the letters. So perfect. All right, bear with me. We're gonna put it up again. Oh, sorry, that was the camera. All right, we're gonna do this right. We're gonna share the screen. We got the shareholder letter, share, boom. And we're gonna put me tiny at the bottom. And I think we are good to go. All right, guys, let's do it. So let me see. See, I think if I scroll this down, I'm just kind of watching it on mine to see if it will follow. Perfect. Okay. Hey, Joby, shareholder letter, Q1 2026. Liam, if you're in there, shoot me a message if I miss you on the backstage. Definitely shoot me a message to bring you in. All right, let's do this. Shareholder letter, Q1 2026, Joby Aviation. All right, highlights. Landmark demonstration flights in New York City and San Francisco Bay Area. Initial operations expected to begin in 2026 under White House EIPP program. First FAA conforming aircraft for TIA takes flight. I think that's like awesome. Like what a highlight for Joby and this industry to have a conforming aircraft taking flight for TIA. Like this is exactly what we're looking for. You have the turbine electric demonstrator achieves full transition flight. Good job. ASI partnership to accelerate integration of air taxis in the airspace. Good job. 2.5 billion in cash and short-term investments is March 31st, 2026. Great job. To our shareholders. Over the last few weeks, the Joby team has brought sorry about that. I'll start over. I'm gonna nail this first. Over the last few weeks, the Joby team has brought aerial mobility to life across America. On the West Coast, we flew from our base in San Marino to the San Francisco Bay with the Golden Gate Bridge and the San Francisco skyline as our backdrop. On the East Coast, we circled the Statue of Liberty and completed flights from JFK to 3 different Manhattan heliports. Back at home in Marina, we flew our first FAA-conforming aircraft for TIA. What an opening paragraph. In doing so, we demonstrated the operational and program maturity that will be needed to participate in the White House's backed EIPP program, which announced successful applications this quarter. Joby was selected as part of 5 applications covering 11 states, including New York, Texas, and Florida, paving the way for us to begin initial operations this year. And shout out to Go Gaines, who had the video, who was talking about the Florida expansion of vertiports. So, but yeah, we'll stick to Cheryl later. But great video. Go. It was our dream slate of wins, and in America's 250th year, gives us great opportunity to let communities across the country see and experience our technology for themselves. We see our selection in such a broad range of applications as a strong indicator of future demand, and we're preparing for that demand now. By scaling our manufacturing operations in California and Ohio, and through our partnership with Airspace Intelligence, ASI has quietly built up a reputation as a true leader using 4D modeling and AI tools to optimize flight operations. And we're expected to work with them to demonstrate how high volume, high tempo air taxi operations can be integrated into American airspace. Thank you for your continued support of Joby. As I said to our team when we rang the opening bell at the NYSE last week, we are excited to be ringing in the next golden age of flight with you all. Joe Ben. That's solid, man. If you want, drop in the comments. Let me know what you felt about that shareholder initial letter from Joe Ben. That's got me excited. All right, so we got it. Let's see, 424. Let's keep it going. Launching our Electric Skies Tour. We kicked off our 2026 Electric Skies Tour with a series of flights in the San Francisco Bay Area. The tour, a nationwide showcase aligned with the United States' 250th anniversary, will bring our aircraft to key early markets across the country, demonstrating our operational maturity in real-world environments. And that's what I'm talking about, where Joby, again, it's like, again, you can be an experimental aircraft right now, but you have a pilot in the seat flying over like the depths of water, flying by the Golden Gate Bridge. Like you're flying in what would be considered like, like restricted national airspace. I'm super proud of Joby. As well as completing a multi-leg journey from our manufacturing base in Marina, California to the Golden Gate Bridge, we also conducted flight in and out of Oakland International Airport, operating within Class B, the most rigorously controlled airspace that surrounds our major airports, which again, I believe LAX is Class B. In a region known for its heavy congestion, the flights illustrated the potential for our technology to deliver faster, emission-free journeys between key destinations. And there we go. That's that S4 right there, cruising over the Golden Gate Bridge. Just, man, I'll leave it there for one more second and just soak it in. These are the early days. And we got a few more pics here. So we got Joby in San Francisco, flying over California coastline. Like I can imagine like playing golf and like looking up, and it's just like, whoa, there's the S4. But it's not, and this is gonna be a bad joke, but it's not gonna mess your golf shot up. It's like you're not even gonna hear it flying over you. It's like, that's really cool. Joby's Electric Skies Tour celebrating America's 250th anniversary. Super dope with the 250 wrapped around. Again, one of the legs of Joby's multi-stop Bay Area flight demonstration. So from going to 2 again of those airports. And then we got a crowd watching Joby's flight demonstrations from Crissy Field, San Francisco, and an approach to Oakland International Airport. Very cool. All right, so now let's get into the New York City flight campaign. Oops, sorry about that. All right, New York City flight campaign. Let's see. In April, we completed a week-long flight campaign in New York City, making the first ever point-to-point eVTOL operations in the city's history, departing from John F. Kennedy International Airport, JFK, to the International Airport, JFK. Our aircraft landed at multiple sites across the city's existing heliport networks, flying routes already familiar to our Blade passengers today. Stops included the downtown Skyport and the West 30th Street and the East 34th Street heliports in Midtown, key hubs for daily Blade operations, home to our premium Blade passenger lounges. Set against one of the world's most iconic skylines, the flight demonstrated how our aircraft can integrate seamlessly into the existing infrastructure and customer journeys while supporting New York City's transition to quieter, emissions-free aviation. Supported by the New York City Economic Development Corporation and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the campaign underscored Joby's operational maturity as we prepare for commercial service, including participation in the White House's backed eVTOL Integration Pilot Program (EIPP), and at the same time, NYCDC is working with Sky Sports, infrastructure, and vertiports by Atlantic to electrify the city's heliport network ahead of launch, ensuring the infrastructure is in place to support operations, together with the Blade network, which served more than 90,000 passengers in 2025. This creates a clear path to scaling electric air taxi service across the region. That's awesome. And again, this is going to be some flights. I believe this is on the New York side. So you see a lot of spectators, probably family, friends, a lot of Joby workers coming out there. And again, as cool it is, I think it is going to be for us as the investors and enthusiasts to go out there and see these aircraft take flight. It's going to be so cool, as you're there building that aircraft to bring your family out to see take flight as well. Let me see, pop over here, and then I'm gonna jump some comments back up on the screen. I see Bags in the crowd. What up, Bag? Good to see you as always. Always good to see you. So we got some pictures here. Joby over here on this side. My screen left is the Joby aircraft at the West 30th Street heliport in Manhattan. You got the Joby aircraft at the downtown Skyport in Manhattan again. Right here, you got the Economic Development Corporation interim president and CEO, Jenny Peck, and that's who I was speaking about, who's talking about the Port Authority. So yeah, oh, sorry, that was 4:30 alarm. I got spooked by it. Sorry. And speaking about downtown Skyport, ringing the opening bell at the NYSE. Like there you go, Joby playing that flag and that banner drop down. That's awesome. Flying past the Blade Lounge after takeoff from the West 30th Street heliport in Manhattan. And Catherine Garcia. Actually, I think I was listening to Catherine as well, executive director of the Port Authority. I'm sorry, Catherine was, I think, who I was speaking to, or hearing about, maybe one day speaking to, but for right now, hearing about the director of the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey speaking at John F. Kennedy International Airport. So very, very cool. And that's Bonnie Simi next to her. And then you have Joe Ben standing on picture left, I think you would say, probably to her right, picture left. All right, initial operations expected to begin in 2026. It's like, what else can this shareholder letter bring us? So initial operations expected to begin in 2026. We were selected as a partner in multiple winning applications under the White House-backed Electric Vertical Takeoff and Landing eVTOL Integrated Pilot Program, EIPP. Through the program, we have had the opportunity to begin early operations this year in up to 11 states, making a major milestones for the U.S. air taxi industry with the potential to significantly accelerate our path to commercial service. The IPP program established by U.S. Presidential Executive Order paves the way for us to bring our technology directly to the U.S. communities ahead of FAA type certification. Again, very interesting where they're able to bring this to the communities ahead of FAA certification. It is expected to accelerate regulatory coordination by bringing the FAA and DOT together with local authorities to streamline approvals for airspace integration and the development of the relevant infrastructure. In addition to our air taxi, in addition to our air taxi aircraft, we were also selected for the EIPP applications that to include our Super Pilot autonomous flight technology platform, designed to enable highly automated operations over time. Super Pilot has the potential to further expand the range of use cases that partner states can explore under this program. That would be really cool to hear about on the call too. Each of the selected programs is now in the process of finalizing OTA agreements with the FAA and the Department of Transportation that will define the scope, roles, and timelines for implementation. And that's what we're talking about, not moving the goalposts. So over here on the other side, you have the Florida Department of Transportation, the FDOT, a statewide effort that will include 3 phases of operation focused on cargo, delivery, passenger transportation, automation, and medical response support by significant public and private investment. Very cool. And what I like here is they're spelling out what they're doing in the states. The only other person I've seen to do this so far that I personally have seen to do this has been beta. So it's really cool to see Joby spell out kind of what they're going to be doing in each state as well. So you have Joby, Port of Authority of New York and New Jersey. Joby will collaborate on multiple operational concepts across New England, including air taxi passenger operations at the downtown Manhattan Skyport. Let's see, for the Texas Department of Transportation, this application will support operations connecting Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and eventually Houston, with air taxi networks expanding from each city to extend regional reach. That's really cool too, because now when you think about it, wow. So when you think about regional air taxi service, that's really interesting because now if you basically take these cities that are 30, 45 minutes apart, and now you're having air taxi hubs in the middle, especially at the early days, if these are straight electric, you might, have to still, touch down, not refuel, recharge. But with that, basically start hopping and maybe get to that next city or two cities down. Very cool. Very cool to see that. North Carolina Department of Transportation. This application will work with industry partners to establish piloted medical and regional operations across the state, while also developing an autonomous flight operation extending into Virginia. Wow. So again, just for reference, in the US, where you have Virginia, Southern Virginia meeting North Carolina, or Northern North Carolina touching Southern Virginia there, it's really a bit more of like a rural area of Virginia. In Virginia, you have it broken down really in two ways. You have really rural mountain, like open type areas, kind of down where Virginia Tech is and such like that. And then when you get more up and close towards DC, or what they call kind of the DMV up there, it's going to be a lot more congestion, a lot packed tighter together. So you're going to have like way more residential. You have a lot more homes, everything smashed close together, a lot more traffic, all that stuff. So it's interesting that they're now talking about bringing some autonomous flight operations that will extend into Virginia from the North Carolina Department of Transportation. And then let's touch on the Utah Department of Transportation. This application covers 4 states spanning the Pacific Northwest, the Rocky Mountains, and the plains of Oklahoma, and will test a wide range of next-gen aircraft and operational concepts. So it's like even through the Utah Department of Transportation, even through the North Carolina Department of Transportation, it's like they might only been, I don't want to say been, I don't want to say they might only have been, being selected for 11 states already, and now having cross collaboration in with other partnering and neighboring states that are in this EIPP. I mean, that's very exciting. I'm really curious now to hear, as Jobin had already talked on that previous call or 2 previous calls ago about the autonomous flight, and now it sounds like it's going to be happening under the EIPP. So let's keep it going. Infrastructure progress in key markets. With the EIPP program accelerating, our path to commercial operations will continue to make important progress in securing the infrastructure required to support passenger service in our early markets. In Los Angeles, we announced plans to establish vertiports at Park Ellen Residence at Century Plaza in Century City. Working with real estate partners, Rubin Brothers, this site will utilize the existing helipad, and it's expected to anchor a broader vertiport network across the city. Supported by agreements signed this quarter with Atlantic Aviation. Look into Atlantic Aviation. We'll touch on that later, but Atlantic Aviation is a nice partner to look at. Signed the quarter with Atlantic Aviation and Santa Monica Airport, and Clay Lacey Aviation at John Wayne Airport. In Northern California, we partnered with the San Jose Sharks. That's right, they did that as well. They partnered with the San Jose Sharks to explore a vertiport at the SAP Center and in San Jose as part of the wider reimaging of the surrounding district and its connectivity. Pretty dope. Internationally, let me just go ahead down. So we got that picture right there, but let me go down. You got that Sky Sports picture. Awesome. And let me see if I can go up just a bit. Okay, I'll read this first and I'll show off. Internationally, we marked the completion of the Dubai International Vertiport, DXV, the first purpose-built commercial vertiport of its kind, which will serve as the operational hub for our services in the region. A second vertiport at the American University of Dubai is nearing completion. And this is what Liam was saying too a few eVTOL Weekly Lives ago, where it's not just, it is, it's huge that the conflict is going on for a multitude of reasons. But speaking just, solely to the eVTOL lane of it, we didn't know if infrastructure build out was even going to be possible during this conflict. So not only to have DXB completed, but now you're still seeing that the American University of Dubai is nearing completion. So there's a beautiful picture of the Sky Sports Hub. And man, I mean, the time it took to put that together, I feel like it was like a blink of the eye. It's right here. All right, enough of me, because let's start talking scaling and production and advancing certification. Let's see what we got. So again, scaling production and advancing certification. Our first FAA conforming aircraft for Type Inspection Authorization, TIA, took to the skies for the first time this quarter. The aircraft N547JX is the first of a fleet currently in production to support TIA testing. This is and has been assembled using an airframe and components built to FAA designated engineering represented approved designs and signed off by FAA's designated airworthiness representatives as specified in Joby's FAA approved test plans. Initial testing by Joby's pilots will pave the way for FAA pilots to visit our Marina, California facility to conduct rigorous TIA testing required to validate the aircraft for commercial service. See how important to keep those DERs and DARs on the floor there. Awesome. Meanwhile, we see our selection across a broad range of EIPP applications as a strong indicator of the future demand as we are preparing to meet the demand by ramping up our manufacturing operations in California and Ohio. To put our ramp into context, we are adding a third shift to our composites layup team and to our automated fiber placement team, with the composite production already running at more than 2.5 times the volume achieved this time last year. So again, let's think, does that double next year, double the next? That's awesome. Composite parts for its 9th conforming aircraft are now in production. And in Ohio, we began our first conformable propeller blade build. That's awesome. Composite parts for our 9th conforming aircraft are now in production. That's awesome. Let's see. On certification, we continued to progress through the final stages of type certification progress, successfully completing our SR3 audit. Nice. And with the FAA, this is the third of 4 reviews that will be taking place during the certification process, and is a long lead item that confirms the data and test results we are producing and precisely what the FAA will need to see during that final stage of testing. And what do we usually always get from a Joby shareholder letter? We usually always get the stages. So here we go. We have Joby and FAA, Joby in blue, FAA in that lighter, darker gray that you got there. Certification, stage one certification basis, 100%, 100%. FAA and Joby. Stage 2 means of compliance, both sitting at 97%. Stage 3, certification plans, both at 100%. So 2 of the first 3, 100%. The only thing they're missing is 3% off that stage 2 means of compliance. Stage 4, testing and analysis. So we have Joby coming in at 82%. We have the FAA coming in at 75%. And then we have stage 5, show and verify, where we do have Joby tracking in at 15%. And then we do have some markings for the FAA where they'd be tracking at 6%. So let's see here, advancing future capabilities. Looking ahead, we are continuing, we're continuing to invest into technologies and partnerships that will enable long-term growth. During the quarter, we announced a partnership with Airspace Intelligence, ASI again, to accelerate the integration of advanced air mobility, AAM, into the U.S. national airspace system. Building on ASI's Flyways AI platform, an AI-powered airspace intelligence system that uses high-fidelity 4D modeling to optimize flight operations. We plan to work together to advance how scaled eVTOL operations can be safely integrated into increasingly complex and high-traffic airspace. Joint demonstrations, including live operational exercises, are expected later this year with FAA's brand new air traffic control system. So that's the BNAX. So in case anybody hears something referred to as the BNAX, I know the smart system has been thrown around as well. But BNAX, brand new air traffic control system. So with the FAA's brand new air traffic control system set to underpin the next generation of air traffic management, the partnership will also explore how more automated software defined approaches to airspace coordination can help enable increasingly autonomous operations. So I know we're doing a lot of, looking for those piloted test flights, but, it really looks as autonomous flight is something that these companies are looking to push towards. It's very, very, very interesting. During this quarter, we also completed the first full transition flight of our turbine electric VTOL aircraft built on our built on our existing S4 platform. This variant incorporates a gas turbine and extended range and payload. Alongside with our partner L3 Harris, we hosted the U.S. Army representatives at our facility in California to demonstrate the maneuverability and endurance of our aircraft and the ability to support current capability gaps. So let's see, there you go. And there is your picture of that S4. I like it. Soak it in. And there we go. And hit the next one. Let's see. Oh, Joe Ben, Sice, Joe Ben. And we got the Joby team ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Over here, we have on the apron of the John F. Kennedy International Airport next to an aircraft Joby partnered, Delta Airlines. So again, Joby and Delta, we'll start to see if any maturation, some firm orders can come in on that. That would be amazing. And let's see, we continue to ramp manufacturing across our sites in California. Joby demonstrated its turbine electric VTOL aircraft for U.S. Army visitors alongside partner L3 Harris. Awesome. And here we go. As Joby scales manufacturing and testing, 3 large-scale structural techs can now be completed. Let me read that again because that almost okay. Check this out. As Joby scales manufacturing and testing, 3 large-scale structural tests can now be completed at once in new facilities in Santa Cruz, California. So that's what it's showing there at the bottom. It's really cool. That's awesome. So here we begin. Our super pilot and autonomy team brought the J208 aircraft to the wings over Solano at Travis Air Force Base, California. Third annual. This is cool. They do this at Joby. The 3rd annual Women of Joby Summit at Santa Cruz, California. That's awesome. And we have guests watching the Joby aircraft take off from John F. Kennedy International Airport. And let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, then in New York, over Times Square, visitors and locals to New York's Times Square caught a glimpse of the future of Joby's electric air taxi. And again, if you guys saw that, where again, just like ads in general are becoming like more prolific and eye-catching and stuff, is like to see not just a Joby billboard, but to see that in Times Square, and it's like that holographic. It's like, this reminds me of Back to the Future 2, when they had those holographic things, holographic ads coming out. It was like Jaws 23 or something like that, and it had to come out. So if you're a big Back to the Future fan, drop that in the chat. BTTF, drop it in the chat if any of y'all like Back to the Future, and then we can debate which is the best Back to the Future. So once we're done debating eVTOLs, we'll debate Back to the Future if we got the fans. But as the last picture there, the Joby team celebrating the downtown Skysport in Manhattan. And I mean, that's what you do at that point. I mean, you've gone out, you've designed, you've built. Excuse me. You've had countless nights away from the family, and I'm like, this is just an amazing picture. It's like you have the team there in New York celebrating together. Financial updates. All right, let's see what we got here. So give me 2 seconds. And we'll pop over to the financial updates. So let's see. Got about 12 minutes or so until the call, and I'll check in on some audio in it shortly, just to make sure that we're on top of it for everybody. So here we go. First quarter 2026 financial summary. In the first quarter of 2026, revenue totaled $24 million. Our net loss of $110 million primarily reflected the net operating loss of $234 million and other income of $124 million. Let's see. Operating expenses for the quarter totaled $258 million and reflected costs to support certification and manufacturing of our aircraft and costs associated with the operation of Blade's passenger business. Expenses included stock-based compensation of $44 million and depreciation and amortization of $11 million. Other income reflected the non-cash reevaluation of warrants, earnout shares, and contingent considerations of $106 million and interest and other income of $18 million. Net losses in the first quarter of 2026 increased by $28 million compared to the first quarter of 2025, primarily driven by a $95 million increase in total operating expenses as the company continued to scale operations. This includes higher research and development costs of the $43 million, reflecting continued investment to support the certification and manufacturing readiness, increased selling, general, and administrative expenses. Selling, general, and administrative expenses of $33 million and $19 million in cost of revenue primarily associated with the Blade business. These increases, were partially offset by $24 million in revenue, mostly generated from Blade's business, and a $43 million improvement from other income, primarily focused from favorable fair value adjustments on warrants, earnout shares, and contingent considerations, as well as higher interest income. Compared to the fourth quarter of 2025, our first quarter of 2026 net loss decreased by $12 million. Other income was $37 million higher than prior quarter, primarily reflecting favorable non-cash reevaluation gains on our warrants, earnout shares, and contingent considerations and interest income. The higher losses from operations of $27 million compared with fourth quarter of 2025 primarily reflected the increased personnel and operation expenses as we grew the team to support certification and manufacturing and the non-reoccurrence of revenue associated with flight demonstrations in Q4. Adjusted EBITDA in the first quarter of 2026 was a loss of $179 million, primarily reflecting employee costs and support associated with the development, certification, and manufacturing of the aircraft operations of Blade. The adjusted EBITDA loss was $51 million higher than in our first quarter of 2025 and $24 million higher than our prior quarter. Adjusted EBITDA is a non-GAAP metric defined as net income loss before interest. Sorry about that. Before interest income, interest expense, income tax benefit, depreciation, amortization expense, stock-based compensation expenses, impact from reevaluation, non-operating derivative liabilities, and other income of costs, which are not directly related to ongoing core operations. Please see attached titled Non-GAAP Financial Measures for reconciliation of net income for adjusted EBITDA. And we'll hear more from the CFO as he breaks down those numbers on the call today, I would expect as well. We ended the first quarter of 2026 with $2.5 billion in cash and cash equivalents and the investments in marketable securities. During Q1 2026, our use of cash equivalents, and short-term investments, excluding a $1.3 billion raise from our underwritten equity offering, Delta warrants exercise, and convertible debt of offering net of cap call transaction payments was $195 million. This includes $32 million of net cash used for the $62 million purchase of our new Ohio manufacturing facility that was partially financed. The purchase was excluded from our first half of 2026 use of cash guidance, as we communicated at the time of guidance. Our use of the cash equivalents, and short-term investments, excluding the Ohio manufacturing facility purchased, was $163 million. Let's see. Final one. Our current outlook incorporates continued investment towards certification of our eVTOL aircraft, expansion to our manufacturing scale, and advancing our commercialization efforts, including participation in the U.S. eVTOL's integrated pilot program. We continue to expect full year 2026 total revenue in the range of $105 to $115 million. We also continue to estimate our use of cash equivalents, and short-term investments throughout the first half of 2026 to be between $340 million and $370 million, excluding the aforementioned net $32 million related to the one-time purchase of our new facility in Ohio in March of 2026. So Below that is a consolidated statement of operations. So being that we got about 7.5 minutes left to the call, I'm going to pop back over. I'm going to see if I can not share the screen. Let me get that one gone. Let's see if this all pops up correctly. Give me about 2 seconds. And we're going to start throwing some comments on the screen, and we're going to see if we can get that presentation loaded up. And wow, so it looks like we got 258 people checking in live right now. So that is awesome. And if you haven't already, if you don't mind, just hit that like button, and that would be much appreciated. Let me go back up here. Let me bring this comment up. We had Liam in here earlier who will be joining us. So don't worry, he will be in. We had Liam right there showing that he will be doing a giveaway if we get 100 likes on the stream. So I think we can do it, and really excited to see what Liam's got kind of cooking back for his giveaway. So let me go down a little bit, because I know as I was reading that, we had some comments flowing in. So I think these are some of the, some of the best comments we can have is, go Joby, big shout out there, Dan. I love it, man. Like that's the energy right there for this call. It's like, to me, not just one of the most important, if not the most important earnings call. Like, let's have fun with this. Let's be excited. We've probably already set our positions, and let's see what this company has. We'll see how the market digests it both after hours tonight and when we wake up tomorrow. But again, LFG, $ Joby. That's what else can you ask for right now? It's a nice day. Hopefully everybody's been having a nice day. And let's see, we got an update from Dan. He said price starting to move. So let me see if I can multitask really quick and pop back over to our stock of the day. Oh wow. So yeah. Dan was not wrong. So you had a flash jump. Sorry, just looking down so I can grab. It was like I would say probably a 5-minute candle in there. Let me see if I can grab from when it was to when it went. No. That was actually, no, it seemed to be around 30 minutes, but that was a nice 3% over pop. It did dip a little bit back under 9, but looks to be stabilizing out. Currently, after hours, we were up 1.38%. And something that's amazing with these high beta stocks is I feel like the last few earnings calls, maybe even on the Joby side, they haven't been as like ripping volatile as maybe some I would have predicted. Just saying that in the sense of seeing like those violent like 5-10% moves and such like that. So yeah, let's see once this call gets going, what the market thinks and how they react. So let me see. Let me pull up the webcast, and really quick, just some upcoming events. They're going to be at the Wolf Research Global Transportation and Industrial Conference, Investor Bay Area Mobility Bus Trip, Jefferies 2026 Innovate Aerospace Summit, Farnborough International Air Show. That's going to be cool. And the Canaccord Genuinity. I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. 46th Annual Growth Conference. So that's cool, man. It's cool to see them continuing to get out there. So let me see if this will bring us over. Let me see here. Bear with me. But again, if you got any questions, thoughts. Oh, and then I know I had my guy in here. Let's see, we got Bag up here. It didn't take flights for TIA. It was an aircraft for TIA taking flights. It starts with FAA pilots. And, it's a good point, Bag. And I always love when Bag comes in because he always helps keeps it grounded and kind of, again, spelling out what really has to take place in order to get these aircraft not just certed, to get them certed, but really the stages that they have to go through. So not just Joby flying the FAA, I'm sorry, not just Joby flying the conforming aircrafts for TIA, but also then having the FAA pilots, where again, We'll see if Joby says that they're going to be coming in 2026, but let's even look to maybe put a 2027 expectation out there. And again, let's try not to use expectation, or I will try not to use expectation, but maybe looking at 2027, maybe being the time that they'll come in there. So let's see. Got a big one right here because we got to pop this one up there. The Go Gains has said, Joby to, well, I'm going to say the Go Gains is not financially advised and said Joby to 100. So maybe some hats coming soon that are going to be Joby to 100. So I think that's trademarked by the GOAT. So that's awesome, my man. Love having you in here, and always welcome to join the stream. You already know. You already know. Nice shout out here. Nice shout out. Nice shout out. And I believe this is Matan. He says he's gonna be in Manhattan tomorrow. That's awesome, man. I like in a non-selfish way of saying, I'm like, man, I wish you were there last week. Could caught the S4 in person. So that's great, man. Enjoy New York. Definitely gonna be fun to get up there. Let's see. We got some love from Fort Patrick's out there. This is some good stuff, y'all. Much appreciated. And I think Liam and I go. Louis, we'll all say we always do our best. We never want to come on here and just speak fluff and be a nuisance and just hide some stuff. We really want to bring, like, again, we don't want to make the content. We just want to share the content and the information that these companies are giving out. So I really appreciate that. Not to mention, this is my first time going live solo, so I appreciate that too. And y'all are really holding it down. Let's see. Bags got up here. We'll pace the way, and this means their pilots haven't flown yet. And then he was just saying, we'll pave the way, which that means their pilots haven't flown yet. And again, great comments from Bag in there. Let's see. Hustle Brothers. Oh, I think did I bring him in, or can he bring him in?
How are we getting on?
My man.
What's the story?
The story is Joby. Gosh, man, it's like I don't even know if I can repeat it all. I might have to let Joe Ben repeat it all. But one of the things that's sticking to me is they're talking about bringing in Superpilot from the Department of Transportation of North Carolina and bringing autonomous flight tests into Virginia. So yeah, man. Oh, and you got the webinar and such.
I've got.
You're the man. I told y'all he'd be here. I knew it.
I'm glad you can see me, because if you could smell me, I smell a cow. Yeah.
And that's why YouTube is that best form. We only got to see you today, Liam. But I'd give you a big hug if I was there with you, though. I'd give you a big hug. It's been awesome, man.
Guys, smash that like button. 219 of you in here right now. Big thank you to Dylan for kicking this earnings off. Yeah, I need to get up to date. I'm going to read it while... Here we go.
Mode. If anyone should require operator assistance during the conference,
I'll turn this up for you.
Please press star and then 0 on your telephone keypad.
Can you hear that okay?
As a reminder, this conference is being recorded. I would now like to turn the conference over to your host, Teresa Thuruthiel. Please go ahead.
Got the blue Joby notebook ready.
Good afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Joby Aviation's first quarter 2026 financial results conference call. I'm Teresa Thuruthiel, Joby's head of investor relations. We will begin today with prepared comments from Joe Ben Bevert, founder and chief executive officer, and Rodrigo Brumana, chief financial officer. For the Q&A portion of today's call, we will also be joined by our executive chairman, Paul Sciarra. Please note that our discussion today will include statements regarding future events and financial performance, as well as statements of belief, expectation, and intent. These forward-looking statements are based on management's current expectations and involve risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to differ materially from those expressed or implied. For a more detailed discussion of these risks and uncertainties, please refer to our filings with the SEC and the safe harbor disclaimer contained in today's shareholder letter. The forward-looking statements included in this call are made only as of the date of this call, and the company does not assume any obligation to update or revise them. Also, during the call, we will refer both to GAAP and non-GAAP financial measures. A reconciliation of non-GAAP to GAAP measures is included in our Q1 2026 shareholder letter, which you can find on our investor relations website, along with a replay of this call. With all of that said, it is my pleasure to turn the call over to JoBen.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you everyone for joining us today. It's been less than 10 weeks since we last spoke, but despite the short window, I'm pleased to report that it's been another exceptional quarter of progress across all core areas of Joby's business. Perhaps the biggest news of the quarter was the selection of states that will participate in the White House-backed EIPP program. This program paves the way for us to bring our aircraft and service directly to U.S. communities this year ahead of FAA type certification. And to speak frankly, we were awarded this dream slate of opportunities. We were selected as part of 5 applications covering 11 states, including Texas, New York, and Florida. Each of the selected programs is now in the process of finalizing an OTA agreement with the FAA and the Department of Transportation. These agreements are flexible R&D contracting mechanisms that enable faster and less restrictive collaboration than traditional federal contracts. They will define the scope, roles, and timelines for what happens next. But our work has already begun. In New York, we're progressing with the installation of Joby charging infrastructure at both East Side heliports, and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey recently released a solicitation for a vertiport on the LaGuardia Airport Terminal C parking garage roof. In Texas, we've secured our MRO facility to support operations in the region. And in Florida, we've been working with Orlando International Airport on the development of a dedicated vertiport for air taxis. In other states, like North Carolina and Utah, we're planning how to begin autonomous cargo flights using our Superpilot technology. Importantly, we're also already showing that we have the technical and operational maturity required to participate in the program. Alongside flying our first FAA-conforming aircraft for TIA this quarter, we conducted a series of demonstration flights in the Bay Area and New York. During those flights, we landed at 2 major international airports, Oakland and JFK. We flew to 3 Manhattan heliports. We operated within Class B airspace, which surrounds our nation's busiest airports, and we demonstrated our ability to charge in a range of different environments. The New York flights, in particular, took our demonstrations to the next level by connecting JFK with the Wall Street heliport, the West 30th Street heliport, and the East 34th Street heliport. We not only demonstrated real-life use cases flown by our Blade customers today, we also completed the first ever flight of an eVTOL aircraft between an international airport and a downtown heliport. And as they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. Whether it's flying past the Statue of Liberty or the Golden Gate Bridge, these flights demonstrated without question that we have the aircraft, the team, the tools, and the experience required to make the most of the EIPP program. But that maturity hasn't come overnight. Our first transition flight with this design was way back in 2017. The success you are seeing today is the culmination of years of careful work in developing, testing, and producing mature VTOL-capable aircraft. And that maturity will be key to delivering real VTOL passenger operations as part of the EIPP program. But to do that, you also need infrastructure. And I'm pleased to report we're making excellent progress on that front too. Our New York demos highlighted the incredible value of the landing sites and lounges we gained access to as part of our Blade acquisition, which includes America's 3 busiest heliports. In LA, we announced a partnership with the Rubin brothers to bring a vertiport to the iconic towers at Century Plaza. In the Bay Area, we announced a partnership with the SAP Center to develop a vertiport in a key San Jose location. And in Dubai, we celebrated the completion of the first ever purpose-built commercial vertiport. Located right next to Dubai International Airport, it will serve as the operational hub for our services in the region. These are the first of multiple infrastructure developments and partnerships you'll be hearing about as our recent demonstration flights and EIPP opportunities accelerate conversations with partners around the world. Over the last few years, we have set ourselves apart thanks to the maturity of our aircraft design and our progress through certification. But as we scale production to meet the demands of our early markets and the EIPP program, it's clear that our head start on manufacturing will be equally important. The experience we are already building in certifiable production processes, production efficiency, supply chain optimization, and inventory management are all going to be just as important as the technical and certification lead we've built over the last few years. By producing more aircraft, we'll be able to serve more markets and more customers, enabling us to access progressively lower unit costs ahead of our peers. To put our ramp into context, we are adding a third shift to our composites layup team and our automated fiber placement team. We're training batches of new technicians each month, and our composites team is already producing 2.5 times the volume of parts it was producing this time last year. But it's not just about volume, it's also about quality, and to some extent, speed. We aren't building prototype parts anymore, we're building conforming parts for a conforming aircraft, and we're seeing incredible results as we ramp production. As we moved from producing composite parts for our first conforming aircraft to our 5th conforming aircraft, we have the time required to produce parts while simultaneously improving quality. Today, we're producing parts for our 9th conforming aircraft, and we continue to do all of this with Toyota at our side. We're embedding the knowledge and experience of the Toyota production system as we go, including practices such as Gemba walks, where you observe work directly on the factory floor, and Obeya rooms that centralize project information to accelerate decision-making and foster collaboration. This kind of day-to-day collaboration and knowledge sharing is invaluable as we ramp production, and we're incredibly fortunate to be learning directly from such an experienced automaker. On certification, we remain focused on the 5th and final stage of the type certification process and are making strong progress. During the quarter, we successfully completed our SR3 audit with the FAA, a milestone years in the making. The audit reviewed our aircraft design and safety requirements, test results, and development standards, and confirmed that the test results we are producing meet the FAA's expectations for the final phase of certification. This achievement, along with so much of what we've discussed today, is testament to the incredible work our teams have done over the last 5 years, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Didier for his remarkable contributions. He will be with us through the early July and will continue to support us as an advisor after that. As we look ahead, we are promoting a number of our leaders to optimize our organizational efficiency and velocity. Looking more broadly across our product platform, we also completed full transition flights with our turbine electric VTOL aircraft during the quarter, including a 148-mile flight at our max takeoff weight of 2,400 kilograms. As a reminder, this aircraft is built on our standard electric S4 platform and introduces a gas turbine for increased range and payload. Achieving transition is one of the hardest technical challenges faced in the development of this technology. But by using our existing platform, our own core technologies, and our experienced team, we've been able to deliver it in record time. That allowed us to demonstrate its maneuverability and endurance to the US Army last month, alongside our partner L3Harris. There are live contract opportunities in this space today with clear capability gaps and strong demand for this type of system. That same operational experience and aircraft maturity is key to the partnership we announced with ASI, or Airspace Intelligence, last month. ASI has quietly built a reputation as a true leader in airspace modernization with their high-fidelity 4D modeling and AI tools. And they are one of 3 companies currently competing to provide the software foundation for the FAA's brand new air traffic control system. While our aircraft was designed to operate comfortably within the current system, We have always believed there are better ways to deliver higher volume eVTOL operations, and we are very excited about the ongoing work to modernize air traffic control led by Secretary Duffy. Alongside ASI, we plan to run real-life demonstrations of how scaled operations can be safely integrated into complex and high-traffic airspace later this year. This work is also an important step towards fully autonomous eVTOL operations. With our Superpilot stack, we already have the technology to do this. What's been missing is an airspace management system that allows for fully digital deconfliction of the airspace. Our work with ASI should help pave the way for this important next step. And if it's successful, it should mean safer, lower cost aerial transportation for eVTOL and every other aircraft that uses US airspace. We close out the first quarter with a very strong balance sheet, incredible progress across all areas of our business, and the clearest path we've ever had to beginning passenger operations. With our recent New York and San Francisco demos behind us and the EIPP program ahead of us, communities across America aren't just reading about the future of flight or hearing about it on calls like these anymore. They're seeing it in the skies above their own cities. And as I said to our team when we rang the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange last week, just half a mile from where our aircraft landed an hour later, we are quite literally ringing in the next golden age of flight. Rodrigo, over to you.
Thank you, JoBen, and good evening, everyone. As JoBen just described, Q1 was a quarter of steady progress. Last week in New York, I had the privilege of meeting many of you in person, including investors and analysts joining this call today. Together, we witnessed something remarkable. Successful flights demonstrations connecting Wall Street in Midtown to JFK in minutes, real aircraft flying real routes, all made possible through our Blade infrastructure in partnership with the FAA, local government, and key infrastructure partners. It was a glimpse of the future, and I could not be more excited to be part of this team. But moments like that don't happen by accident. They're the result of years of deliberate investment and disciplined execution. And from a finance perspective, my job is to ensure that continues by funding certification, scaling manufacturing, and supporting commercial launch while preserving the financial flexibility to execute. What you saw in New York last week and in the Bay Area the month before is the combination of deliberate investment and disciplined execution producing tangible progress in the market. Now, let me walk you through our first quarter financial results in more detail. We entered 2026 with a strong momentum on the balance sheet. We ended the first quarter with approximately $2.5 billion in cash equivalents, and short-term investments, including $1.3 billion in net proceeds raised during the quarter from our equity and convertible offerings and warrants exercised by Delta Airlines. Our Q1 use of cash equivalents, and short-term investments, excluding net proceeds from Q1 capital raises, total approximately $195 million. This includes $32 million of net purchase cost for our new Ohio manufacturing facility after financing. The gross purchase price was $62 million, and we financed roughly half of that at attractive terms, bringing the net cash impact for the quarter to $32 million. Excluded that one-time purchase, consistent with how we communicated our first half guidance, Q1 cash use was $163 million compared to $157 million in Q4. Additional detail is available in our Q1 shareholder letter. Total property and equipment investment in the quarter was approximately $78 million. Of that, $62 million reflects the gross Ohio purchase, with the remaining $16 million supporting facility build-out, tooling, and production equipment for our manufacturing ramp. Overall, Q1 spend is in line with our first half 2026 guidance of $340 to $370 million, excluding the one-time Ohio purchase exactly as previewed. And we remain on track within that range. Step back for a moment. The capital deployment you see this quarter reflects the choice to lead, not to follow. We are running a multi-year manufacturing ramp, an active type certification program, a global operations build-out, and integration of Blade, all in parallel. Few companies in our industry are in a position to execute all four at once. We can, because of years of foundational investment, and we can do it sustainably because the strength of our balance sheet. On a GAAP basis, we reported a Q1 net loss of $110 million, a $12 million improvement compared to the $122 million net loss in Q4. The sequential improvement was driven by a $33 million non-cash favorable change in the fair value of warrants and earnout shares, and $4 million in higher interest income, partially offset by a $27 million increase in loss from operations. As a reminder, the fair value revaluation of warrants and earnout shares is driven primarily by changes in our share price and can introduce meaningful non-cash volatility from quarter to quarter. Revenue for Q1 was $24 million, which was mostly Blade. Compared to Q4, revenue decreased $7 million, reflecting the absence of the one-time revenue we recognized in Q4 for the flight demonstrations in Japan. Blade performance in Q1 was strong, and we are now heading into the seasonal ramp, with Q2 typically building as weather improves to a Q3 peak. Service levels in customer demand remain consistent, and Q1 puts us on a solid trajectory toward our full-year revenue guidance of $105 to $115 million. Total operating expenses for Q1 were $258 million compared to $238 million in Q4. The $20 million increase was primarily driven by continued investment to support certification, manufacturing ramp, and commercial readiness. Adjusted EBITDA, a non-GAAP metric that we reconcile to net income in our shareholder letter, was a loss of $179 million in Q1, compared to a loss of $154 million in Q4. The $24 million sequential change reflects the revenue and expense dynamics I just described. Taken together, the capital deployed in Q1 reflects deliberate investment in the capabilities that set Joby apart. Advancing certification, scaling manufacturing in California and in Ohio, and building the foundation for commercial launch. Q1 was a quarter of steady execution, and as the flights in New York and in the Bay Area demonstrated, our progress is increasingly visible, not just on the certification pathway, but in the skies above our largest cities. We have the balance sheet to lead and the discipline to do it well. Thank you for your continued support, and operator, please open the call for questions.
Thank you. At this time, we will be conducting a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press star and then 1 on your telephone keypad. A confirmation tone will indicate your line is in the question queue. You may press star, then 2 if you would like to remove your question from the queue. For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up your handset before pressing the star keys. The first question we have is from Kristine Liwag of Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. JoBen, Paul, Rodrigo, Teresa. It was really inspiring to see the Joby aircraft land in front of me in my own eyes at the West 30th Street vertiport last week. So thank you for that. I guess, with the very visible progress of Joby with EIPP, can you talk about what kind of conversations you're having with incremental customers? Because, as you guys touch on your prepared remarks, the future is here. All the years of hard work that you've had is really coming to fruition, and you have these capabilities occurring now. And so as these kind of firm up in what people could see the true mission of this, can you talk about those customer conversations and how quickly do you think those potential orders could materialize?
Thank you, Christine. So first, I think the experience for folks in New York was really indicative, and the excitement was really indicative of the progress that we're making and the opportunities ahead of us. There's so many customers who are really excited about beginning to use our service. I think that the next element of that, I think you're referring to is sales of aircraft. And as Paul's talked about a number of times before, that's certainly a lever that we can choose to pull as we desire. There is a huge amount of demand from many international markets, and we may dial that depending upon the market. And then I think the third area where we're really seeing momentum and an opportunity to capitalize on the demonstrations we've been doing and the momentum around EIPP is around infrastructure. And I think that really accelerating those infrastructure conversations and getting more and more takeoff and landing locations built out is a strong opportunity. And then I would just back to your question about aircraft sales. I might turn it over to Paul to touch on the opportunities on the defense side.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Christine. Yeah, I mean, as we've talked about, we've got a pretty deep pool of sort of potential aircraft sales opportunities outside of the U.S. I mean, we've talked specifically about Saudi Arabia, also about Japan with our partnership there. So all of those folks are really looking for the same things that we were able to demonstrate in New York, which is an aircraft that is mature, that can sort of meet the mission, and that is essentially supported by both maintenance and pilot training to make those aircraft sort of useful in their markets. So I think the work that we did in New York is certainly positive for the momentum that we're seeing on the sales side of things.
The next question we have is from James Kirby of JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Thanks for the time. Just for the EIPP, how are you thinking about sequencing the initial aircraft for the program by both location and operation? Is it a decision tree that is based off potential revenue opportunity or maybe where infrastructure is already in place? Or is there a regulatory angle to that? Just kind of initial thoughts. I know it's early just on how you're looking to scale into the EIPP.
Thanks so much, James. So I think it's both of those elements. It's about infrastructure, and you have some states that are really moving very rapidly at deploying additional infrastructure, and that's we're thrilled about that. And then there's also opportunities like in New York, where we already have existing infrastructure and an existing customer base, and being able to bring the acoustic signature, the really remarkable acoustic signature of our aircraft to places that are currently quite impacted by helicopter noise, we think is a massive opportunity. So we do see substantial demand across these EIPP markets, and we're very excited to be ramping our manufacturing as aggressively as it can to deliver on that opportunity.
The next question we have is from Andres Shepherd of Cantor Fitzgerald. Please go ahead.
Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for taking our questions, and congratulations on all the great progress. And I echo those thoughts earlier. It was very exciting to see the aircraft in a natural environment. Joe, but I guess my question, just to build from the last one, is around the EIPP. Curious to get your vision on kind of how you see the program starting and kind of ramping up from there. You know, we know obviously it'll run for 3 years. We know it'll start this summer. We know some of the projects have been selected. There might be a few additional ones. But what we don't know exactly, I guess, is kind of how the program will start. Is it going to be each project at the same time, multiple aircrafts at the same time, or kind of rotating? So just curious on kind of how you see the program starting and kind of ramping up and really developing and maturing over these 3 years. Thank you.
I think the best crystal ball we've got at the moment is that we'll be signing, or that agreements will start being signed in Q3, and that as we move into the back half of the year, we'll start to do operations. I would expect operations both for our eVTOL aircraft as well as for our autonomous platforms. And on the eVTOL side, we are, as I mentioned before, ramping manufacturing as aggressively as we can to be able to field as many aircraft into the EIPP markets as we can as we look into the back half of this year and the first half of next year. We'd really like to get those fleets in New York, Florida, and Texas built out.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, you may press star and then 1. The next question we have is Savi Syth of Raymond James. Please go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I know you started flying the first kind of conforming aircraft. I was just curious, when you think you'll start kind of for credit testing of the aircraft, and what do things need to transpire to get there?
Thank you so much, Savi. So we are thrilled to have that aircraft in the air. And just as a reminder, this was a monumental lift to build this aircraft with FAA DERs and DARs intimately involved in the process. Having that aircraft in the air is absolutely fantastic. That's one piece. The second piece is we need all of the conforming test articles to have been built and then tested, and then many of those test reports written and submitted. So those are 2 parallel work streams that we're working on. The next step for the FAA, or for our first conforming aircraft, is for JOBY pilots to begin doing testing, and in parallel to that, to get FAA pilots into the simulator and get them trained up. So really, you can think of 3 parallel work streams. One is the components and parts getting tested. 2 is JOBY pilots flying the conforming aircraft and doing all the test points in advance of the FAA pilots doing them. And then 3rd is the FAA pilots getting trained in the simulator.
The next question we have is from Chris Pierce of Needham & Company. Please go ahead.
Hey, just looping back to the EIPP and production. I mean, it seems like the partners in the states are moving as fast as one could hope. I just want to get a sense of, are there any bottlenecks you could potentially see on your side, manufacturing, raw materials, production, even pilots that you need to have at the ready in these locations? I just want to kind of get a sense of what you're doing to kind of head off all potential bottlenecks to get as many aircraft out there as possible.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. Great question. And I'd like to echo your shout out to the states and the FAA and the DOT for the absolutely phenomenal work that they're doing on this program. We are working very hard on all 3 elements that you mentioned. 1, supply chain, 2, ramping manufacturing, and 3, we made a very early investment in our flight simulator, and having that installed now and preparing that for beginning to train the FAA pilots is really speaks to the JOBY team and the incredible foresight. As a reminder, we built that in partnership with CAE. So CAE is the world leader in flight simulators. JOBY develops all the flight dynamics and the flight controls that run on that, and CAE provided the hardware. It was an amazing partnership, and we're so excited to start training pilots in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, just another reminder, if you wish to ask a question, you may press star and then 1. The next question we have is from Austin Moeller of Canaccord Genuity. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. So just my first question here, what is the status of the production activity timeline in Ohio? And do you plan to add shifts there over time as well?
Thanks so much, Austin. The ramp of the team in Ohio is going really, really well. As a reminder, folks, we're doing propeller blade manufacturing there, and we're really pleased with the bring up of that facility. That was the first facility that we purchased in Ohio. We're adding additional components and systems that we're starting to build in that first facility. In addition, as a reminder, we bought an additional 730,000 square foot facility across the street, and that facility is beginning to get the build out and preparing that facility for our beginning to put production processes into that facility. So it's 2 parallel work streams: one, building the workforce and adding more and more capabilities for our team in Ohio, and the second is building out that larger facility. So really, really pleased with the momentum and the maturity that we're seeing out of the team in Ohio.
The next question we have is from Amit Dayal of H.C. Wainwright. Please go ahead.
Thank you, guys. Congrats on all the progress, and good to see the flights starting to take place now. With respect to passenger flights, you've indicated potentially this could take place by the end of this year. I think earlier expectations were these might materialize in the Middle East, but with the situation over there, do you think these flights potentially take place here in the U.S. now?
Thank you so much, Amit. So it is very exciting for us to now have 2 shots on goal for passenger flights this year, both in Dubai and as well as in our different EIPP markets. And so I think that's looking very strong that we'll see passenger flights later this year. And for me, this is a dream come true. This is something I've been waiting for a really, really long time.
At this time, I'll be handing the call over to Teresa. Thank you, Teresa. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Irene, and thanks to all the analysts who asked questions today. Earlier this week, we invited members of our Reddit community to submit questions. We received a bunch of different questions about EIPP, future stops on our Electric Skies tour, and conforming aircraft. So let's jump into a couple of them. First question asks, how far along are the other FAA conforming aircraft that are in production? How many are in production? What does the timeline look like for FAA pilot testing? JoBen, do you want to give us a summary of that one?
Yeah, so first, in terms of the number in production, as I said in my prepared remarks, we now have parts for 9 aircraft that are beginning to be built, and we have 5 aircraft that we will be using for TIA flight testing, and all of those are progressing well through our manufacturing operation. So this is indicative of the manufacturing ramp. As I said, we have spooled up our 3rd shift for our composites operation, and really seeing great momentum. And just to put a fine point on it, we are ramping as fast as we can, but with the focus on quality. We really want to drive NCRs, which are non-conformances, to 0. We want to be making as many of our parts with 0 defects as we possibly can. The name of the game in aviation manufacturing is making parts with incredible consistency and quality, and it's incredible to have the Toyota team that has a deep expertise and ethos steeped in quality. The Toyota production system is known around the world for the incredible quality and efficiency that it drives into manufacturing processes, and having Toyota shoulder to shoulder with us has been absolutely phenomenal.
Terrific, thank you. The next question is about EIPP, and the questioner asks, the purpose of EIPP is for AAM companies, cities, and regulators to garner useful information earlier in the development process than would have been previously possible. Can you share any useful information Joby or regulators have learned from Joby's New York City and SFA area tours, including any unexpected public reactions?
Yeah, thanks. So the key pieces, this really showcased and built on the deep relationships that we've built, whether that's with the EDC and the Port Authority in New York, whether that's with the FAA and the DOT, and the Joby team just knocked it out of the park. The operations went flawlessly, and we are so grateful for, I'm so grateful for the Joby team and for the relationships that we've built and the maturity of our processes and with the regulators. I think the thing that stood out for me the most, and I think was really remarkable about the flights, was people getting to hear our aircraft for the first time, and specifically not hear our aircraft when it flies by overhead. New York has large numbers of helicopters operating, and the difference in the acoustic profile between a helicopter where you can hear it from a long way away and our aircraft where it can fly directly overhead and you can't even hear it in a city like New York is really exciting. And we can't wait to bring our aircraft to New York, to Florida, to Texas, and we're so grateful for the DOT and the FAA for the remarkable work that they've done on the EIPP, and very grateful for the states in their incredible execution on this program.
Terrific. Yeah, it really was joy to have the community so involved in these flights that we did last week in New York City. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We greatly appreciate your support. Operator, over to you.
Thank you. This concludes today's conference, and thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect your lines.
I am hoping that we still have audio, because remember last time it messed up. Can you hear me?
Yeah? I got you. You
can hear me all good.
Check.
Let me turn that down. Right. Let me fire across.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. This looks weird. The other side around.
What's going on? It is not right. Something's wrong.
That was probably the best Joby call I think I have heard. I'm not gonna lie. Do you know the last retail question? There's no way retail put that through. That was the most random question.
I thought those were almost two of the hardest questions, or like were the most like boom, direct. We want to know this now. Tell us. Like, you know, it's always interesting, like which questions they end up picking from that whole retail side and everything like that. So, because again, it's like you're picking a question that you have that power of whether you want to bring that answer to the table. But yeah, no, they're two very serious questions. I wrote next to my notes, I said hard questions. So yeah, no, I think the
I genuinely think that has to be an analyst in
the community.
Yeah, in under the shadows. But no, how do you feel about the call, my guy?
You know, I felt solid. You know, I did feel solid going all the way through. I really don't know what the market is going to interpret it. You know, I feel like what it does let me know is there's still timeline in this industry. One, you know, maybe I'll do the one or two quick highlights. One thing they did not speak about on the call, but was in the shareholder letter, was how they were talking about they were building out their vertiport network in Texas. And I'm going to not name the states correctly, but they were going to be adding Houston as the final leg of it. And basically what it was to regionalize their opportunity for travel. So it's like almost like you take these cities in these major states that are 30, 45 minutes apart, And so you're air taxiing to that next city, maybe doing that slight MRO battery recharge, 15 minutes, and then you're up and over to that next city. So it was interesting in the shareholder letter how they were kind of speaking about that a little bit. But my big green light, maybe in the sense of if I'm an analyst and putting a price target at a certain point, certain time, is going to be when these FAA pilots hit the sim. It does seem that a lot is contingent, not just again, and again, as we continue to learn, relearn or learn more, where it's not just about the FAA pilots jumping right into the aircraft. Again, we were told sim first. So, I think again, seeing that progress continue to be made, because that's going to be a major side to get that cert.
What I found interesting, I'm looking here, question 7 was in respect to passengers this year. Is it going to the US or Dubai? Joe Ben said we have 2 shots on goal. We're lucky to be in that position. He didn't shoot down operations in the Middle East, in Dubai. So potentially you're looking at 2 shots there. There was another really interesting one, and I think people are going to overreact to this, but I really don't think it is a problem at all. Let me just double check. It was around the selling of the aircraft.
Yep, absolutely. Maybe Morgan.
Yeah, so there's huge demand in international markets. It's a lever they can choose to pull if they desire.
Right.
And I think so many people have been thinking along that Archer mentality of this selling the aircraft. Don't worry about the selling the aircraft. I think Joby have it banged on, nailed on. It's a lever they're willing to pull if they need revenue coming in.
Right.
But it would not surprise me to just see no sale of aircraft and complete rollout into the Joby ecosystem. Then it was very interesting. They hit on L3 Harris twice there. And Joe Ben said there's active opportunities that exist at the moment. That is something I really want them to dive down a little bit more. What else was I looking at? Oh yeah, how did the vision of the IPP starting? The only thing I was a little bit worried there, and this is not Joe Ben's fault, I think it's more the FAA and the Department of Transportation, that he doesn't sound fully aware of what's happening. He says the best crystal ball is we'll get agreements signed in Q3. Right. Would be hoping for the back half of the year there'll be operations of the eVTOL and autonomous platforms. So we're going to actually see the autonomous platforms flying with the eVTOLs. And that's making me start thinking now is, are we banking too heavy on these pilot operations? How long will pilots actually be on board these crafts? Or is the long-term vision go down that whole autonomous route? And is that why previously when we said about the scaled-up manufacturing, we weren't that impressed, what was it, 6 months ago when they brought it out? Is it because they're going to be converting these into autonomous vehicles anyways? We don't want all these piloted craft knocking about. Is there anything more exciting you have been?
Let's see. I write a lot, but I tried to star a few things that were maybe some more jump out. So let's see. We have so again, just again to highlight that they are having the 3rd shift come online for the composite team.
Yep.
So when I hear him talking about 2.5, basically 2.5 speed, 2.5 ramps, 2.5 speed of ramp production that is going in at this point, with basically setting up the supply chain. And it's one of those things that, I think again, it's tough with the vertical integration because you're not buying off the shelf. So again, you're going at the speed and rate of the production in which you're capable of doing. So I think again, it's good to keep an eye on, can that 2.5 go to 5 speed, 5 speed go to 10 speed with inside maybe that next 18 to 24 month period of time, maybe 12 to 24 month period of time. So, good to see them laying out that 3rd shift of worker, because again, the more work that's going in to build the aircraft, hopefully what we're seeing is more aircraft come off the line. So, let's continue to refine that and get those aircraft coming off the line. So I did like that. They really did lean a lot into ASI. So it did seem critical to them to mention the partnership a lot on this call. So whether that again means anything for ASI being a part of the BNAX or the smart system, or again, just highlighting that the partnership with ASI in this sense for this company is critical, because that is what's going to be pushing forward AAM and UAM really in having that space to fly. So definitely, yeah. And, and it's like, him saying in the prepared remarks that, they want to make the most out of this EIPP. So, again, it's like, whether it's not as a fault of them, but when I say like lack of aircraft, just meaning like if they had 20, maybe they would do like a 4-city tour at the same time and collage all, you know what I mean? And maybe that is still to come and can come. So getting the most out of the EIPP that they can gain. So I like them heading in that direction with that mental focus put on. And again, they are vertically taken off, and they are right now showing that they can do demonstration flights. So again, another 6 months from now, we may be looking back on the Electric Skies tour in New York and in California as okay, well, that was just one aircraft doing it for 10 minutes. Now I'm seeing 3, 4, or 5 aircraft, point to point and doing this and that. So that can be a cool thing to continue to build off there. I think like you were saying again with the sales, when Paul jumped in, he was saying that there was that deeper pool, like you said, outside of the US, and the opportunity for sales being in Saudi and Japan. And I think you put it in a good way of saying that it's a lever that they can pull. Maybe if this was another company's call, it would be like, that's a lever we are pulling, or that's a direction we're heading. It would be like different verbiage put around it. But it does still seem like Joby wants to keep that Joby ecosystem and maintain and kind of MRO and run that as much in themselves, but knowing that, sale of aircraft equals certain revenue. But, I do think they've really showed a lot of pride in what they were able to establish in what is already the Blade ecosystem, and maturating the Blade helicopters into the eVTOLs, and then driving forward the passenger demand in and out like the Blade ecosystem there. And then again, touching on, they touched on Signature Aviation. I don't know if it was in the shareholder letter remarks, but they did touch on Signature Aviation there. So again, momentum on the New York side was positive, and they did mention that in conjunction with sales. That was a piece that they did mention.
Speaking about helicopters, another exciting thing is they're heading into the seasonal ramp.
Correct.
In Q2, and with the height of it going into Q3 for Blade operations. Another really interesting one was they asked about the deployment of the aircraft along the EIPP in different states, and how they're actually planning to do this. And is it to do with revenue? Is it to do with infrastructure, etc.?
True.
The third thing that I found really interesting that Joe Ben said was they look for cities with the acoustic signal of helicopters is a problem. And that is actually an easy swap out when you're thinking about getting public perception on board. If helicopter noise is a problem within your city, and you actually see one of these S4 flying along, or 4 or 5 of these S4 flying along your city, and you can't hear it. You can see it, but you can't hear it. I don't know. It really pushes forward the positive view on the VTOL industry. How far along are the type conforming aircraft? So there's 9, or there's parts for 9 beginning to be built, and 5 aircraft are going to be used for flight testing in TIA. What else was going on?
Let's see, you were highlighting, there was something you said there that was going to highlight something. And then I think another thing, just again, is those little smoke signals to keep the eye on is going to be when they do start, they said that they're kind of prepping that build out on that other facility in Ohio. So, again, seeing whether those time patterns kind of mirror in with the FAA pilot's able to hit the sim. So if you're having FAA pilots, let's say, I'm just about 6 months from now, it's not an expectation or anything. It's just
way.
What you got?
No way. Right, guys, we need to switch to archery for 1 second, yeah? Adam Goldstein just put up space VTOLs with a shaking hands of Earth VTOLs. Remember when I spoke about on Mars having these aircraft?
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. It won't happen on the moon. It'll happen. But we'll go back to...
It's breaking news, mind blowing. Just put the mind blow emoji
Big
like
thank you to
right
Go
over
for
my
that.
face. Wow. Okay. So Q3 earning call, eh? Yeah, I saw this one. Yeah, what
did Adam put that out to, I don't know, take the attention off Joby? Because it's literally as the earnings call's finished, that's dropped.
You know,
and it's to Scott Manley, and it's with SpaceX.
I'm definitely gonna have to pop over to X and see what this is all about. You know, we know Adam is that salesman in the industry, you know. And you know, I think I saw a comment in there earlier where, you know, one was wondering, you know, is this something that you know, Archer's kind of catching up in? All right, so here we go. Is this Space VTOLs, Handshake Earth VTOLs?
Yeah, Bag's right. They already do have a drone on Mars. And no, but do you know what I think this could be? There's talk around another drone going to one of Saturn's moons, Dragonfly, and I actually think it could be to do with drone infrastructure, autonomous drone infrastructure on different planets. But yeah, that's why I think himself and Isaac are quite close. But yeah, we'll get back to Joby because I know that's why people are here.
Yeah. So you know, and again, Chris, you know, the bottlenecks in it. You're talking about the supply chain, the ramping, the manufacturing. So you know, I think this is really that time where again, you really got to have the marriage of all this starting to come together. And it's not to say that Joby's not going to come out on top. It's not going to say that Archer's going to come out on top. But both of these companies are going through certain things, and you know, and Archer's probably going to have to get more build out in their manufacturing capabilities as well. Even though they say they can get 650 off the line down in the Cummings facilities. So, you know, it's really one of those things where it's like, again, you know, you got, and what I was really impressed with was Joby's cash position. So, you know, having that 2.5 billion, you know, and not in the sense of being worried about dilution, but like, let's start to see it used. So again, we have to keep in mind the CapEx where it you know, it is, you know, it's higher spend CapEx right now, but that's going to have to be expected to continue to ramp up this build out. Oh, and then there was a mention in there also about something about a vertiport in Orlando. That was something I'll have to go back and catch a little bit more about, because it reminded me as we had the Mickey Mouse covered Mickey Mouse wrapped eVTOL. It was like, man, is Joby going to be creeping down in Orlando and working with DeSantis and such like that in the whole like racetrack and vertiport build out. Yeah, so I think I agree with you when Amit from HC was talking about the passenger flights, because at that point, you know, again, the two things that I really wanted asked or brought up, I don't know if they really were, and that again was to the payload. But if they're talking to passenger services, I guess that's to assume that they're leaning in that software or battery is not going to be an issue at that time. But see, but they did lean in hard though. I felt like when they were talking about the turbine S4, where it was able to do the full weight. So it to me, I was almost like they were selling the full weight, not taking away saying that like they can't produce the full weight on the E side, but it was almost like we can put this in the air. And I guess I'd have to like check general acoustics of what that would change in that sense of putting thermal on the side, you know, or putting turbine on the side. But you know, it did seem like it's almost like they have their product is proven with the turbine engine. So it's just still
no, if they go into operations with a turbine engine, I'm not going to worry too much about. I'm not going to be disappointed if they start running passengers around. I know people be calling it's not full eVTOL. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm investing in this
JOBY
whole,
Aviation.
Yeah, JOBY Aviation as a concept and as a business, ferrying passengers from A to B as quick as possible, going over, taken away from traffic. So I don't care if it's a full gas engine in the thing. If it does exactly what it says in the tin, I'm not too worried about it.
There you go. There you go. But I think, and then just again to highlight that, those FAA pilots getting in the sim is something that I'm really going to be looking forward to. So again, always love Savi's question. She was speaking about the conforming aircraft, and again, that was nailing down that number one, pilots and parts tested. Number two, JOBY pilots flying. Number three, FAA pilots in the sim. So those are my main takeaways.
I can see some people are saying they're disappointed that there was no new news as such coming through. We said it yesterday in eVTOL Weekly. Don't be surprised if there's no new news. JOBY have been firing on all cylinders for the last 6 months now, and they just have news every single week. I didn't expect nothing to come out that we didn't already know about, but we shouldn't be disappointed by that. Look back at the fantastic quarter they have had. If we look back even 6 months ago, to think that you'd have the S4 flying around different locations in electric skies, to talk about having passenger operations and cargo operations by the end of the year in 2 locations, not only within Dubai, but within the US. Then if one doesn't happen, are you going to be disappointed if it happens in the US? I think we'll forget about Dubai if we start seeing actual passengers on board an S4. Maybe it won't be for revenue. I don't care if it's not for revenue. I just think we need to see passengers on board as soon as we can. I don't want to rush the process because, of course, you put one of these in the ground, the whole industry is over. Before something happens like that, we need this industry to actually take off. I don't believe they can pull off a turbine integration for passenger transport, at least not the S4. There is very little unutilized space. Joe Ben made a statement: the S4 hybrid is fully capable of flying fully loaded. He has not stated the same about the fully electric, in my opinion. Addressing issues, no payload follow-up is insane. The only thing is, that's up to the analyst. The analyst that asked that question in the previous call to follow up that question. JOBY never actually came out with it in the original, 10 weeks ago in the earnings call. So I wouldn't have expected JOBY to highlight whether they can or they can't. They don't feel the need to, because either it can or it can't, but they just don't feel the need to do it. So that is a question that's up to the analyst that asked that originally, to be fair.
And actually, maybe it's a little bullish for me that an analyst didn't want to go hard and ask that question. It seemed like we're getting a lot of them last month.
They can do it.
Or they can or they can't, or maybe right now, for the general sentiment of the industry, it's not time to ask the payload question. Let's get through this call.
As we said, if JOBY tanks, it's going to pull the whole industry down.
And also, when and this is a call, I think, like we said from yesterday, we may not be blown away with, but I think after we digest this, we're going to find the highlights that did come out of this call, and I think that we were touching on. And we have to remember here that right now it's like, to have 125 people here, that at least showing for me, like that's effing crazy and awesome. Like that, we're so deeply entrenched into what JOBY is doing, day to day and on their earnings call and such. So, if you have to take a step back and to think of the person that would, for some reason, this was their first earnings call that they've ever tuned into, or they're like, oh, I don't have time to check on these aircraft daily, weekly, or such, but I will tune into the earnings call. You have to think what those investors also have learned on this earnings call. not everybody may know that the Electric Skies tour is taking place. Not everybody may know that there was the experimental flights both taking place in California and New York. We've been blessed enough to know and be able to kind of play that
I think
into.
you hit the nail on the head there, because I've said that about X previously, and even the same here. I appreciate everyone that comments on our videos. Like, you are the guys that help us grow, help
Absolutely.
The back and forth between us. However, any of you guys in the comments, I recognize you all. So you are fully up to date in this eVTOL industry. You're here with us all the time. So of course you know all the information that's coming through, but it can be intimidating for someone that doesn't know anything about the industry. They come in and yeah, they hear like, we haven't heard nothing new. And it's like, everything in this call might be new to them. They might not have time to be researching the stock all the time. They might just catch the earnings calls every quarter. So no, I think it is an extremely positive quarter, and that's what the earnings call is all about.
And also, if you feel like you were kind of neutral to disappointed, like almost be proud at like how much you do know about your investment. Like if you came out of this earning call feeling like you didn't really quote unquote like learn anything new, like think how up to date you are about your investment. Like how many people can go to their portfolio and literally like recite what would have happened on an earnings call previous to it happening on the earnings call. You know, everybody in here, they're doing their due diligence. They're staying on top of these flights. They're seeing what aircraft are coming out. You know, we're seeing the tweets from L3 Harris, who is putting out information about Joby. It's not just Joby tagging L3 Harris and putting that out, you know. So it's definitely that mix of like, you know, to the newer investor, they may not know, you know, for us to have been entrenched with it, you know, it's like, again, it's a be proud moment, because unless it was some blow away partnership, and again, I would be happy to take that on this earnings call. We've kept up to date with Joby, you know, and I think that's what we've set out to do. And that's a great job from the community.
Company, like Joby investors always want or say how transparent Joby is. So if you want a transparent company, they're going to tell you the news as it happens. So they're not going to hide any partnerships or anything like that ready for the earnings call just for excitement during the earnings call. They're doing exactly what you want them to do. They're being transparent the whole way through the quarter, letting you know. They could, in theory, apart from like Electric Skies, you'd say it, but like hide it all and then put it in the earnings call. Is that what you really want? Just don't know anything for the whole 10 weeks leading up to the earnings call, and next thing you get blown away.
Then
yes, it'd be exciting at the earnings call, but like we would have tanked a long time ago because we wouldn't have known anything.
I was gonna say maybe that's when it would have been the more volatile sort of earnings calls, you know, when it's all like hidden information, and then all of a sudden today it's like ASI and you know this and that. But I'm gonna bring this one up from Dax because I don't disagree with you at all, Dax. Like I've said since minimally yesterday on the live, that's the question that I want asked. So it does leave me curious of why that question was not asked. I don't think it's a hard question to ask. Now, again, I'll have to follow Liam on his thought on this. And again, it is tough to be an enthusiast, an investor, and an analyst all kind of within that same bubble, because again, it's like wanting to create, again, any emotional attachment to the company and stepping back and also trying to see through the lens of how Joby Aviation can present themselves today on this quarterly earnings call and walk away and build themselves up for the next 3 months. So I spoke yesterday saying I want Joe Ben to address it on the prepared remarks. I want him to come straight out and say this either isn't happening or this is the timeline to happen. That didn't happen. That's his choice. He can bring it up. And then again, to the analysts, I would have liked them to ask, but they didn't. So, you know, we got to ride through with it.
Like, I do pin that on the analysts rather than Joby themselves. Like, I know I keep bringing Tesla up, but it'd be like when the Cybertruck was coming out. Would you expect Tesla to come out and say, yeah, we can, every earnings call, that we can carry 4 passengers and this is our payload, or this is our max weight we can have on board? It just won't, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get Adam coming out and saying, this is how many passengers we can carry. No, unless he wants to fire a shot.
But that's the influx, you know, that's the thing, you know, if we do start getting, you know, the beta earnings calls because Beta has leaned in saying that they've actually flown the most nautical miles. So it's like you again, and that's kind of where again eVTOL Live can kind of help out, where we're studying this whole sector, and each company independently, but in a a respectful comparison in times in which each company is doing. So so yeah, if Beta comes out on their call and they're speaking directly to payload, if Archer comes out on their call and they're speaking directly to payload, yeah, I can back up, because again, it's like when you have like big tech earnings, you always got that first company that's kicking it off. And Joby seems that they've always fallen in that slot where they're the industry leaders, but they're also the earning call leaders and first to go. So, they kind of do set that tone. But again, we've kind of seen that it's not only just to set the tone, we do want to separate these eVTOL companies from themselves and not always compare them sheet to sheet because of certain timelines they're on. Now, when we do get to the point where both of these companies are having production certification, and then we have really measurable statistics on how many aircraft are being produced, how many aircrafts are being sold, used, revenue being brought in. I mean, that's going to be, those are going to be even more interesting earnings calls, and what ends up going on that. But it does present a time horizon where there's still time to do with what we may in this stock. And we saw around this time last year, and this is the not financial advice, but we saw this time around last year when the Joby catalysts started to stair step their way up to their yearly highs and stuff like that on their prices. So I think, again, the market will digest this earnings call, retail will digest this earnings call, institution will digest this earnings call, excuse me. And then we'll start to see in these next months, are these catalysts that are not, again, the baked in catalysts. And we start looking forward, I think, again, to Q3 UA entrance for their passenger service too.
I want to bring a question up here because I did promise Paul I would speak about it after the call.
Yeah.
So do you think Archer is catching up? So
okay.
A short answer is it depends what you call catching up. Like, the more we hear Joby talk now, it's completely different to what Archer's doing. Joby want to operate. So they need to go out, do public perception. They need to get all the infrastructure in place. They need to be getting all their demonstrations bang on. Archer need to be like that question that was spoken about. They need to be speaking to the customers.
Right.
Joby, it was pretty hard because I noticed the way Joe Ben was like, it's important for us to go out to the public, but I think you're talking about sales of aircraft. Like, what can Joby do apart from public perception and actually operating the aircraft to benefit actual taxi services? Where Archer can go out and speak to customers on potential orders. Look, we've seen Beta actually secure that order for 25 Alia. So the more I look at it, how can we say Archer's catching up? Like, Joby are actually going around flying their aircraft around all these cities. Archer have not completed the transition yet. So no, as long as Joby progress and Archer doesn't complete a transition, Joby will push him further and further ahead. But again, it depends what ahead means. Like, what is your end goal? Is it selling the aircraft? Is it operating the aircraft? Because selling the aircraft is going to come much quicker than operating it. Actually, because we're thinking about this, but they then need to get the actual logistics of actually operating a air taxi service then after they get certified. So you don't know how long that's going to take, because that is creating a whole new business in itself. It's like creating a whole Uber app and an Uber business. Uber is a business on its own, but creating an Uber business while still maintaining your manufacturing capabilities and operating your aircraft. So I don't know. I think we need to forget about is Archer catching Joby or is Joby beating Archer? I think they're two different companies. They do something very similar. They produced vertical or electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, but they're doing something completely different. So I don't think we can compare them anymore. It's nice to always have something to compare it to, but again, Joby is a business in itself. Like, you don't see this happening. Manufacturing and then operating. Tesla are going doing it. But again, you can't compare it to Tesla, and especially doing it with an aircraft. I don't know. I just can't compare it, but from what I'm seeing from Joby, it is really exciting. I hope that answers your question, Paul.
Right.
Do feel free to jump in and have your say, though. Dylan, what are your thoughts now?
No, I wouldn't take anything away from that, Liam. I think in a short way of saying, it will be interesting a year from now in Q1 of 27, because I think that should be the time when we have already proven out any transition with Archer's Midnight, and you already have other that are in stages of completion on that side as well, which again we'll learn more about on Monday during their call. So when they're catching up, I mean, again, I like the idea that you say, Liam, of keeping them as two separate business models so that can be separated kind of in those comparisons. But when you do look at the time where each company has been operating to get to the end goal, it can look in some ways that Archer is catching up to what they're doing. So basically the catch up, I think, more comes in the production of the aircraft. So if Archer can transition in a time, but then again they're stuck to a FAA timeline of when they can get started, because again most of these companies probably are not going to build more than they need of aircraft until they know that they're started.
Really confusing is, I think we've just got so used to in this eVTOL space of this race to certification, because certification is not the end goal. So you could get to certification first. You could be the first to certification. You could be years ahead of everyone. But if your business model is shocking, it doesn't matter. If you get your aircraft certified and you run yourself out of business, it's all about thinking of it after certification. What's happening then? We start from zero. And how do we make money?
That's fair. Because that's where, because you're right. Because then that literally comes where the money is. The money doesn't come through the door through FAA certification. That's not a grant that comes. That's not $1 billion check that comes because of FAA approval. It's now prove out what you can do with your business model and your aircraft. So I think again, that's why there's so much, that's still interesting to learn and digest about this industry and these companies as they do continue to form these partnerships. And we do look at these separate ecosystems and how they all tie together. And we're all, again, whether it's Hood and SoFi, Palantir versus Snowflake, you're always going to have competing investor bases who want to see these things come from their company. But, again, like I say, if we can think about it in a positive way, maybe not other sectors have, I don't want to say predictable timelines, because the goalposts have been shifted, and we've seen them be shifted by the FAAs and such, and even the conflict coming into UAE, which can shift that off, and that was something that was never planned for necessarily a year ago in the eVTOL industry. But you're having these timelines on these earnings calls where, again, not only flight catalysts are being put in, but again, what is turning this into an industry catalyst are being put into the call. So a year ago, you're not hearing these companies, you're not hearing Joby speak about not just the presence, but really what the DERs and DARs were doing on the floor. Like a year or two ago, if you had a federal shutdown, would you really have the support of those DERs and DERs on the floor in there? Maybe, but maybe not. And so, again, I think we continue to look, and as long as there's nothing broken through Innovate 28, I think we have something to look forward to. Now, if the FAA, Congress budget, House budget, executive order bills, if those start to crumble, those are the red flags. I'm not too concerned on Joby being able to build an aircraft in the form that they are, working it through certification. You know, they're already procuring all this space to ramp their manufacturing. So it's like, I don't see them just doing that to put on a show to say, you know, to kind of keep the show alive that we're going to have a chance to cert. So I'm going to go buy a factory in Ohio just to, you know, show that. It's like, no, I think they really do think and believe through the FAA representatives that have been there that they are going to have this conforming aircraft that will pass FAA certification. But what we need to do now is tool out the factories, because if we don't start that now, we're going to be too late, or we're going to be behind schedule, whichever way you want to look at it.
Like we said yesterday, there's no point sitting there with one certified aircraft and your next aircraft's on the production line. It'll be there with you within a year. You need to be able to roll these out quick.
Like let's
turn the switch on.
Let's dilute me now, to be that for your build out, so you're ready to go, as opposed to years from now having basically that certification, but now, you know, we're cash poor because all the CapEx went into the build out and we didn't plan in for all the infrastructure that was needed. And just like you heard with Job in there saying, where the predictability of what's going to happen in the EIPP does lay around certain infrastructure. So when you start to see these things come up in the States, North Carolina, Florida, such like that, you know, those again are going to be your key signals that there's going to be probably some advancement in what can happen under this EIPP. And again, having the 3-year lifespan, having the 3-year window within the EIPP again brings us to and about 2028. And even if it's Archer being the one that has the exclusive air taxi rights for the LA Olympics, again, Reuben Brothers helipad on top of the luxury towers, like there's still you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Joby tries, you know, you have the Metropolis partnership. You know, I don't want to speak on it, but, you know, I'll look more into like any of the California or LA opportunities that they may have there. But, you know, continue to look at Joby as one that might want to tap more into the infrastructure market in LA and in around the surrounding cities, so that they're ready for what they'll deem as passenger service. Because Archer may be one that's doing, they've already said they're going to do dignitary, VIP. They're going to, you know, get LeBron around the city. They're not picking up Dylan. So, you know, but Joby, they have a different business model. It's not to say they have less of a product because they're not picking up LeBron to go to the Olympics. That's just not what the partnership agreement is for that specific event. And that's not to say that LeBron couldn't take a Joby 5 times before that he ever got into midnight. So there's a lot cooking here. But I'm not walking away from this call deflated. It makes me excited. It makes me excited for the next one. Like it really does.
Paul says, thanks for coming in. It was okay. So I might have got the wrong end of the stick here. It was Joby's comment on the simulator for training. I think Archer has had this for a while, so I was wondering if this would help speed up FAA certification and close the gap. Yes and no. If transition doesn't take place,
that is
we're stuck where we are.
That's a good point.
So the further and further Joby push any progress Joby makes, they go further ahead. When it comes to getting that certification over the line, like we can add the simulator there, but the FAA pilot can't step on board a aircraft that you're not actually going to be using for certification.
And what I like there is what Paul's picking up on is though what we're hearing, and that's why I was saying the other day, you know, we're going to get the Joby pod started soon. You know, we already have the Archer pod out there. But if you're a heavy Joby investor or an enthusiast, tap into the Archer pod. And when we get the Joby pod going, Paul, if you're more on the Archer side, you know, I can understand that. So, you know, maybe tap into the Joby one too, because if you didn't know this before, and I'm not saying you didn't know this before, but you're highlighting again that for Archer to progress, that's what they need to happen at their facility. So if that's something that Archer was forward thinking and getting there, again, does that close the time gap? Well, partially, yes. if Archer was going to kind of like you say the stick and twist, you know what I mean? If they were twisting on whether or not they're going to build the sim or purchase the sim and get all that. So the fact that they're doing those things again, I think is going to accelerate Archer's timeline to be able to get to that finish line. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to beat Joby to the finish line, but I think it really narrows the window on what we're looking at Joby in a 15-ish year kind of span of looking to accomplish this mission. But again, it's not Joby's fault on the loan. It's taken 15 years. It's a lot of administration, hurdles and everything like that that's had to get through. And it does seem like that, there's this marriage between FAA regulations, administration, software, battery tech, and having the ability also to not just have the politicians ready to, to do the vertiports, but have vertiport networks built in and have that infrastructure. Because again, without that, we don't got the eVTOLs.
Guys, I want to say we were again the biggest earnings call.
Nice.
On YouTube.
Thank you all.
You know what, Dylan?
Appreciate you guys.
This is a shot at the guy that came into one of our earnings calls pretty early on. We had 4 times the amount of viewers than him. Just you on your own.
I appreciate
away.
you.
So, guys, smash that like button for Dylan. He done great prior to
yourselves.
The call. I did promise the guys something. If we got to 50 likes, I said I would do a giveaway. So that's what I'm about to do. Guys, smash that like button and smash that subscribe button to be in the chance to win a free giveaway. Completely random. I don't pick who it is, but you have to be subscribed. You have to smash the like button. And you have to have, is it gifting turned on? I forget what it's called.
Might be correct about that.
So make sure your gifting is turned on. I think it's in the settings up there on the right hand side for you. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and I will do the giveaway. So I'll give you 30 seconds for anyone that hasn't gifting turned on. Overall, Dylan, happy, sad about the call.
I'm walking away neutral to happy. And it's generally because there was nothing I heard that feels me that Joby sat back through guidance or anything in that call, and they laid out a timeline. I'm looking forward to that timeline, and I'm gonna keep watching them, and I'm excited for the partnerships and deals that they hopefully will be announcing over these next 3 months. I'm excited for it. What about you?
I'm blessed. I think that call was amazing. I know, yes, maybe we didn't get any of that exciting news that everyone was hoping for, a big announcement, but I think it just shows transparency in the company. It shows that they are telling us everything as it happens, when it happens.
Nice.
I think it was the most... Look, Joby's calls are always honest, but I do think it was an honest call. There's nothing that is screaming out to me that would be negative. True. I just think you just need to keep pushing forward with Joby. And yeah, if we do tank tomorrow, I will be adding a bit more Joby. I'll be honest with you guys, I won't be going heavy because I don't want to overexpose myself. But yeah, I will be adding Joby. So let me go here. Right, guys. Here we go. 5 memberships coming right up.
Nice.
So
see what we get. It's always exciting.
5 there.
I like this.
We have P. Carragher.
Nice.
Remy's got one.
Nice.
Nitin P got one. Mrs. Crump got one. And Christian got one.
No way. Hey. Big
Christian, you're always here, my guy. So thank you so much. Oh, do you know what? Big shout out to... I'm not even going to say what your old name was. But
you're
I just started confusing myself. So Rad Hair Tech, we have Chris in the building.
Hey.
Take it in late. Thank you so much for joining, my guy. Christian, thank you.
Yes. That's dope, Christian. I'm awesome. That is awesome. That it came your way. And Liam, I think I don't think either of us want to ever say things that aren't going to come true and stuff. But with that, Gifted, I think, when we had that opportunity to kind of just sit back after, I think it was either after one of the eVTOL live shows or something like that, and kind of kick back for 20 minutes and stuff. If you guys are up for it, I think it's a cool thing to kind of get that hive mind going and get everybody to kind of get that audio or video platform, maybe after we do the eVTOL live. So super cool that the Gifted came out, and yeah, maybe we can get one of those floating again.
Guys, we're going to be here for the Archer Aviation's earnings call on Monday. However, the Archer podcast is normally today.
I know what is today.
See, bank holiday is throwing me off completely. I think we said we're going to start doing it on Wednesdays now anyway. So Archer podcast will be tomorrow, but it's going to be a pre-earnings podcast. So if you're in Archer, or even if you're interested in the Archer's earnings, you're going to want to stay switched on for that one. And instead, I had Gifting switched off. And you know what? I'll be doing it again at the Archer Aviation earnings call. So make sure
I got the fingers crossed on that. Nice.
I got Lightpath and then DM and Rocket Lab all reporting Thursday at the same time. I can't wait for that Rocket Lab call. My guy.
All right.
Clued into that with you.
Nice, man. Nice. I'll be excited to see and hear what happens. So yeah, through the space sector, it's going to be exciting to see how that goes through 2026. So. I might have to be in there with you in the chat and keep up with you.
Guys, you're going to want to make sure you are subscribed to Stock Dylan. I want to show the appreciation for Dylan, what he done today. He pulled me right out of a hole. I had a bullock down. He had pneumonia, so I had to wait for the vet. I actually had a double bad day. So I had to wait for the vet.
I don't even know the second one.
I had this happening, but I also had the Arsenal game happening. And this is a confession. I was going to have the phone here, having the Arsenal game and the earnings at the same time. But the internet is shocking out there, so I couldn't get either.
So you didn't? Do you know who won?
As I came in the door, Arsenal were winning.
Okay.
I don't know for certain. I actually didn't check. I've only just thought that. No, actually.
That's your squad. So for you, I was pulling. I had to.
Saka, my guy.
Straight up, a straight win, straight time.
Straight win in Champions League final.
Sometimes you got to listen to Liam, and it pays off. I'm not saying it paid off, but sometimes it pays off to listen to Liam. That's dope, man. I know that's your squad, and that's really cool. And I think at the end of the day, man, it's so cool to do an earnings call again with you and with the community, and have so many of the familiar names and faces in there. And I hope you guys are smiling like I am, because again, just being able to just shoot off the left, and I cut off Liam. I didn't even get, or maybe I did hear about the final of his two bad parts of the day, but it's hearing Liam struggling with the bullock, and I'm like, man, but I knew he was gonna be here. I knew he'd be here, and super happy that he was able to be here for the whole call. So we do this as a team, and I think like everybody in the community, man, we all support each other, and we all got the same end goals and missions, and we're gonna learn deep dive, and we're gonna do our best to get there.
Again, guys, I'm happy you can see me. I'm happy you can't smell me, because I literally came straight in the door and I smell a cow shit at the moment. So thank you, guys. Guys, smash that like button for Dylan.
Appreciate you.
He was a one-man band for the majority of this call. Mate, you smashed out of the park.
Bless you, brother.
The two competition put together, you had 3 times the viewers as I walked in. So, Dylan,
bless you, brother.
Thank you so much. It's great to have you as a right-hand man.
Together we do it.
So we're gonna smash this. I can't wait for the podcast tomorrow, and it's always great having Go. Guys, this is a confession here. I enjoyed this. I actually enjoyed the Archer podcast more pre-Archer podcast than actually the Archer podcast. Archer podcast is unbelievable, but pre-Archer podcast, you get Go straight away on the energy drink, and it just all goes off.
I love it.
I can't wait. He always gets the vibes hopping before the recording, so I absolutely love it. Can't wait for it, guys.
Agree.
Do you know what? Great call. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. And yeah, I'll be in there for the next, 15 minutes to comment back to you guys. Right, guys, until then, we'll see you.
Nice. Peace.